There are two ways to be fooled. One is to believe what is not true. The other is to refuse to accept what is true. Soren Kierkegaard. Good evening, everyone. How is everyone doing tonight? Tonight, we're going to go a little deep. Sorry if my voice is a little harsh. That's a good quote by Soren Kierkegaard. I never heard of him before. I watched someone's live feed, Jinxie. She looks around every once in a while. Well, we got a question. Let's go ahead and answer that one before we dive deeply into other things. All right, so Nathan Fowler, Ebon, what are your thoughts on the last card being aliens? Werner von Braun told Carol Rosen the last card was going to be aliens. Now we know Earth is flat. That last card changed. There's too many people to that think that the Earth is a sphere, so they could just go ahead and play that card still if they wanted to. I don't know if they will or not. Who knows if anything's changed? I mean, what would be the purpose in playing that last card? Is it to solidify a one world government? It seems like it's getting to that part anyway, without having to play that card. There's also other things that are rolling out. That's probably working. I mean, there's just not a lot of people out there that really are against the system. There's plenty who support systems of control, which they don't realize that they're being controlled. But hey, as long as they have the thought of that they themselves are free, really doesn't matter. They're still controlled, and I find myself in that same arena every once in a while. I feel like I'm just biding my time, see what happens when time runs out, if there's such a thing, and see what happens. It's not a good thing, but it's just a weird leap of faith, and I'm not a man of belief, but faith is a little bit different. I don't know how to explain the difference between faith and belief, but I think faith is important. Belief, not really. Okay, one of the things I was thinking about, and this is starting to get deep ahead of time. Sorry about that. I kind of want to go over more stuff later, but this one is just more of a thought, I guess a thought game. For example, I'm going to go ahead and pull up a picture that I made. I was going to actually use this picture as the title image, but I didn't. Please give me a second. It's going to be a little bit. Sometimes my hard drives take a while to get going. They're in a RAID array, that's why. Okay, let's just do a quick search. There we go. I guess that's as good as it gets. Okay, let's move it over. I know you can't see it very well. That sucks. I need a new image. Actually, let's create a newer image. What am I thinking? Give me a second here. Sometimes picturing things in your mind can be beneficial in order to think about things in a certain way. And hopefully this will do it. Outline there would make it a width of 10 pixels. There we go. And let's save that. Okay, here we go. Hi, Captain Will. Everything will occur as planned. Not enough military opposition, just a YouTube militia. It's very small YouTube militia. Okay, so let's just, you don't need to see me on this one. Just think about this. As you've got, imagine you're imagining, or it's a dream, or it's just, you know, your head's in the clouds. And everything's dark. You're just thinking of nothing and just kind of seeing where your imagination or your thoughts might lead. And then you see a point of light. And you look at the light. And then you go, okay, wow, that's interesting. What is it? Where is it? How far away is it? In your mind, how do you know distance? How do you know measurement? How do you even know movement? If you think or you imagine that you're moving towards the light in your mind, how do you know you're getting closer to it? In the material world, in the material life, the reality that we experience day to day, we would know we're getting closer to it because it gets bigger. Now, in your imagination, in your thoughts, if it doesn't get bigger, does that mean you're not moving? Or maybe you are getting closer and you are moving, but you don't know that you're moving because there's no other object as a reference. I mean, that thing, that dot, that light could be an unimaginable distance away. So to find out where that is, to know what it is, to get closer to it, to get more detail on it, we think of things in a very material way, in the way that we would when we're awake. But in your mind, in your thoughts, in your imagination, you don't have to follow the same rules. You don't have to be moving to it. You can have it move towards you. And to find out what it is, we use visual observation. And to have things closer to us. But the thing is, it doesn't have to be that way in our thoughts and our imagination. Can it just be processed in our thoughts in a non-sensical, observational, not mean like nonsense, but not using your senses type of way. And then if we get closer to it, or if it comes closer to you, right, it might get bigger. But does it get blurrier? Like in, for example, when we look into things on our computers, in the simulation, when we get closer to an object, things don't appear in better detail. They end up being blurred. Except in reality, when we get closer to objects, things don't get blurry, they get more detailed. Now, with thoughts and our imagination, what is it that we think of or imagine when we get closer to the object? Is it going to be this blurry object? Is it going to be a more detailed object, or something else? I don't know the answer to that. Only your mind, your thoughts will know what it experiences. And that's the greatest thing I can think about with thinking, And this goes along with beliefs or people who will tell you what things are, and you ask them how you know, and they just say they just know. I don't like that explanation. I like something that's perceivable through my own experience. So when I went through this entire scenario with you, you went through the same experience as me while listening to me and thinking about how you would imagine that point of light in total darkness, whether you're moving towards it or if it's moving towards you, and whether it's more blurrier as it's closer to you or if it's more detailed. And when people talk about God, it's the same thing, and we keep falling into the same controlled system narrative. Is how can we experience God on our own without having to rely on someone else's experience? And why do they get to have that experience? No one else does. And how is everyone's experience different? And they're not the same. But here's the thing. Certain experiences are the same. And I think that's why when you take something that's from the earth, that's been used in the past to experience a different consciousness, and that consciousness is the same throughout everybody who experiences it, that is just something remarkable. And I think what the truther community would, at least the main part of it, seems to be is always listen to whatever you can, whoever it's from. Doesn't matter if you like them or not, or if you hate them or not, or if you think they're wrong or not. Just listen so you get their information, you process that information, and then you make a judgment on that, whether it's something that you would accept as useful information or not. And if it's someone that you like, it's almost worse. It's harder because you've got a bias. You want to take their information as truth. But don't just believe that person. You still have to do the research yourself. So when I talk about ayahuasca and my experience with ayahuasca, that experience is something that I can share, but I'm not going to tell you what exactly it is because I still don't know. But what I do know is that you're going to have the same experience, especially the first time. The mother spirit, the feminine aspect, the protection you receive, and the lessons that you learn that are very broken down simply in whatever language that you are fluent in. It's amazing, and it does change you. And you will find out who you are if you're not afraid to know. All right, so that was a little deep, I guess. So what usually happens, and because of the experience of ayahuasca, I tend to look at things in a way where I'm handed signs, and I don't take it as mere coincidence. And when I see a sign, and if I try to ignore it for too long, it's in my face a little bit more. And then I start thinking, okay, this is a couple of times where I've been given this sign, and I've been brushing it off for way too long, and I just start thinking about it way too often. So let's just get it over with, look into it, and then when I look into it, I find something remarkable, and it's just something there that I don't know where it's leading me. It's just a bunch of breadcrumbs. It's like to me, it's almost as though I think the breadcrumbs are leading me somewhere. But what I don't realize is it's the breadcrumbs themselves that lead me to where I am and where I'll find the answer. It's something that we keep thinking of a destination as the answer to what we're looking for. And another way to think of things is the answer isn't in a destination. The answer is the process of getting the answer. If that makes sense at all. Because how do our thoughts formulate to figure something out? Now, if we go into evolution and we think about it a little bit more, and let's take the smartest people that we acknowledge in this world. Some people, majority of people in the world would say Einstein is one of the smartest people in the world. How come there aren't more Einsteins from the Einstein genealogy? We have a lot of politicians who become politicians from, if their father was a politician, one of their sons or daughters will become a politician, and so forth. Same thing with military. We see that, but why don't we see the genius represented within their offspring of geniuses? And those traits should be just more and more. But we don't ever see that. I just think that's why thinking about certain things is great, because you get a question and wonder, hey, what are all the little genius Einstein is doing right now? Are they coming up with like super theories that would just kind of make Albert Einstein look like George W. Bush or something, but we don't really see that, and so it makes you think about what's passed on genetically. If only physical traits are passed on and not necessarily abstract or any other aspects of a person's characteristic. I'm not talking about genetics in the genetic way that science is perceived. I'm talking about materialistically what can be measured scientifically, like your eyes, your hair, your skin complexion, all that stuff. But the other things, your thinking ability, your not your physical ability, but your mental ability and things like that. All right, let me look at Eugene 12. You're being led to Jesus Christ, the living word of God, John 1:1. All you have to do is ask him. I think I'm getting to that point, Eugene 12. But everyone I talk to who seems to mention that is an agent. I mean, if it's so important, why do you not have any videos? You've got 39 subscribers and no videos, Eugene 12. So who would I be calling if I ask him? And how would I know it's him? So there is a little bit of doubt, that's for sure. But am I ready to take on something that's supposedly from a higher or lower, I guess dimension is the best word to describe it, right? Because if one does know the truth and one does know God, why would you be hiding? And why would you be hiding the truth? You don't have to tell us the answers. You can just tell us how we can experience the answers and how the experience is shared through other testimonies. And with all the people in the world that probably prays or asks or summons forth or whatever, why is the world still the way the world is now, which isn't very good? We can all share our experiences right now by talking to each other. You could come on and talk to me right now as well, but we don't ever seem to have that occurring. I mean, if it's so important to summon forth God, then why not just keep letting everybody know about it? Talk to people, even strangers. I mean, I see a lot of people who want to convert people into a certain religion, and they'll go and talk to whoever and whenever, whoever wants to hear. But they don't like the questions that are being asked and the answers that they might think about and come forth with. And then when I talk to someone who has found God, knows God exists, is protected by him, yet that person is afraid, yet that person is afraid to do certain things. For example, ayahuasca. And some people think that if you take ayahuasca, that opens the door for demons and dark entities and things like that. Well, if you're a God protected individual, then you shouldn't be afraid of it. You will be protected. But the thing is, you already are protected when you take ayahuasca. With a divine essence, that's for sure, but a divine feminine one. Let's look some more. Mysteries of the God kind are a deep rabbit hole, Captain Will. Nathan Fowler. Also, I don't think Einstein had kids. Shirley Vic, they kind of handled the truth in my Jack Nicholson voice. Hey Shirley, how's it going? One of the things that I've been looking at recently, and I do ask people, and I do listen to some people, and I take some notes, but I don't go to them until look at the information until I'm ready. One of the things I was looking into for some reason, and I don't know how I get to it, I was just looking at Choctaw mythology. And I was looking through Choctaw mythology, I noticed this symbol right here. This symbol is a eye in a hand. And then also you get to two serpents intertwined with each other. Another one-o symbol. And it's like, how did that get to Choctaw in Native America? If we think about it, things in terms of how history is represented to us by the controllers of the masses, or what you would call mainstream, or the official history. But then when I look into it, it says here it's a digital graphic based on a ceremonial stone palette found at the Moundville Archaeological Site in Moundville, Alabama. And so when I try to find the, here we go. Here's the engraved stone palette. Two horned rattlesnakes, perhaps referring to the great serpent of the southeastern ceremonial complex. Now that hand with the eye symbolism, when I noticed that a lot from like Hollywood and music videos and things like that. And now I'm thinking, okay, let's look into the symbolism. What does it represent? So the eye in the hand symbolism, I guess the most common term to call that is the hamsa. And hamsa meaning, this is on jewelryinfoplace.com. What is the hamsa meaning? The hamsa hand is an ancient Middle Eastern amulet symbolizing the hand of God. In all faiths, it is a protective sign. It brings its owner happiness, luck, health, and good fortune. The hamsa sign has a wide variety of different spellings, which includes Hamesh, Hamsa, Chamsa, and Kamsa. It is also identified as the hand of Miriam, Aaron and Moses' sister, and the hand of Fatima. The hamsa hand has two main styles. One style is shaped like a regular hand, the other has two symmetrical thumbs. The second of the two styles is the most popular. The wearer of the hamsa hand can wear it facing up or down, and it is believed to give the owner success, harmony, and protection from the Ayin Hara, also known as the evil eye. The hamsa hand meaning has a variety of interpretations depending on the culture. The word hamsa derives its name from the 5 figures on the hand. In Hebrew, the number 5 is Hamesh, and the 5th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Hey, one of God's holy names. That's interesting. We say hey all the time, don't we? Or hi, or hey, or hello. Hamesh is representative of the 5 books of the Torah. In Judaism, it is interpreted to be the hand of Miriam, the symbolic owner of the owner's 5 senses in an effort to praise God. In Arabic, it is Kamish. In the Sunni culture, the hamsa is associated with the 5 pillars of Islam. For the Shiites, it symbolizes the 5 people of the cloak. In the Islamic faith, it symbolizes as the hand of Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad. The hamsa hand sometimes includes an evil eye symbol, which is thought to protect against the evil eye. It is often worn as a pendant on a necklace, but also found on keychains, house decorations, baby carriages, and other jewelry items. And this, the evil eye, or people can, isn't the eye of Horus as well? Maybe I'm thinking of slightly differently. So to protect against what it is the evil eye is the strongest symbolic images in the world. The evil eye meaning dates back almost 3,000 years to ancient Greece and Rome. Wearing an evil eye as an amulet is believed to provide protection against evil forces. The evil eye meaning has symbolism in almost every country in the world and in every religion, such as Judaism, Islam, Hindu, Buddhism, and Christianity. The evil eye is a look given to inflict harm, suffering, or some form of bad luck on a person that it is cast upon. Giving someone the evil eye is a look which clearly states that one intends for something bad to happen to the other person, either out of jealousy or pure malice. It is believed by many cultures that the look is powerful enough to bring about actual disaster for the unfortunate person that is the receiver of the glare. In many cultures, excessive praise or receiving admiration beyond what is truly deserved can bring upon the scorn of the evil eye, which was believed to cause physical and mental illness. Ashkenazi Jews believe that excessive praise causes a vulnerability to the evil eye and will repeat a Yiddish phrase, Kain Anora, meaning no evil eye, in order to protect against it. The evil eye is popular trend jewelry today and can be seen on many celebrities as a stylish jewelry statement. There's more stuff with the Tree of Life. I've always been fond of that growing up. Now, so I just thought it just weird how it just permeated into ancient Native American mythology. The same symbolism, although they are stating they don't know what the symbol represents, but just that they have the symbol is an interesting correlation. And I think we do see this elsewhere. And in other cultures, probably in more Native American cultures, we kept looking. And I think even the Maya and the Aztecs probably had that. Why don't we go look for it? And Maya and Aztec. I guess that is true. Let's look. Was that really a hand? I don't know. Let's see. Ojo and La Mano, dark fiber. I don't know where it gets all the information from. I just want to see more actual, just like this. Where is it? Where we can actually see that in the culture itself. Well, I haven't found it yet, but that's just something where I'll keep looking at. Hi, Kathy B. Yeah, I've never seen that either. I just thought it was just interesting, and I just had to keep looking for it. Captain Will at Eugene 12. Nevertheless, it is worth the journey. I'm going to use like fructose. I'm going to call it fructose. I know it's not supposed to be. Mean mug. Good evening, Kathy. All right. Another thing that I noticed, what I hear about quite often is, I even though I don't share a lot of the videos and show it, I do look into like the Carl Jung or Zhang Jung, whatever. His idea, because I remember learning about that stuff in psychology, and I was listening to two people talk about things and talking about how there are similarities within Jesus and Buddha. And here, the first thing that you would have is, I was thinking about the temptations that they're both presented before they went to, I guess, what you would call the next stage, or their next stage. This is www.intu.org. I do like this. I'll just keep reading from what's written here. It is nicely written. This is we'll get back to that, Kathy B. That's interesting. Okay, so the three temptations of Jesus and Buddha. There are three things that prevent us from seeing the truth: our desires, our fears, and our opinions. The universal truth is beyond religion, beyond psychology, and beyond culture. No matter where we live, what we believe, or what time period we are living in, we are subject to these same limitations of the mind. Is it any wonder that nearly every spiritual discipline addresses these issues? Jesus and Buddha both illustrated this principle in their lives. Jesus underwent 3 temptations in the wilderness just before his baptism, and Buddha underwent the same temptations just before achieving enlightenment. At first glance, or should we say from the standpoint of the intellect, the two accounts do not resemble each other at all, except that there were 3 events in each. If, however, we use the principle of fear, desire, and opinion as an overlay, the similarities between the 2 patterns begin to emerge. First, we have to understand the purpose behind these 2 stories. For both Jesus and Buddha, the time leading up to their spiritual experiences, the baptism and the enlightenment, was a time of preparation and trial. Each had to undergo a series of tests, 3 in number, before he could proceed. It is useless in a spiritual sense for us to believe that these tests were strictly actual physical events and to ignore their deeper meanings. These three experiences that Jesus and Buddha went through showed us, in a spiritual sense, what we all must go through in our journey toward the realization of God. The tempter in the wilderness is the tempter within us, our lusts, our fears, and our sense of the way things should be. Lust manifested as a desire for food in Jesus' case, and a desire for sex in Buddha's. Both manifestations are appetites of the body, which every spiritual disciple must master first. The next temptation was fear. The devil placed Jesus on a precipice, and an army attacked Buddha. Both overcame their fear by knowing the truth that the real self cannot be harmed. Buddha's non-resistance turned the enemy's arrows into blossoms. Jesus realized that the desire to prove the truth is a form of resistance in itself. Boy, is that true? Both refused to give life to the apparent evil, and by doing so denied its existence. One cannot have fear and practice non-resistance. The third temptation is duty, obligation, and the urge to make the world conform to our ideas of how it should be. I do make that same mistake. The devil offered Jesus rulership over all the kingdoms of the world. Mara exhorted Buddha to take up his place as his father's heir to the throne. This is the classic choice faced by everyone on every level when a degree of mastery has been attained. We want to set things right. After all, who could be better for the job? We want to impose our will upon the world and to rule it. In the simplest sense, it is our ideas, our concepts of things that hold sway over us and not our deepest knowing, which is of God. The external mind always thinks that it knows best. The higher mind is in touch with God and knows what is needed, what is possible, and what is. Greatest battle for the spiritual aspirant is between his conscious mind or intellect and his intuitive mind, the gateway of wisdom. It has always been this way. The biggest obstacle to truth is the body of opinions that we have built up over the course of a lifetime. The more opinions we have, the harder it is to let go of them. Unless we do let go, we cannot enter the kingdom of heaven, which is truth. The truth is almost never what we want it to be, because as long as we want it to be anything at all, we're coming from the ego's desire to make the world into a reflection of ourselves. The world has no feeling whatsoever for our ego. What we think about the world has no effect upon it. This is the greatest frustration for the ego, wanting power. It knows instinctively that it has none. Therefore, to set itself up as a ruler, though attractive as an idea, is nonetheless impossible, because rulership cannot be effected from the standpoint of believing in ourselves as an entity separate from the whole. I thought that was pretty cool. I'll probably explore a little bit more about this website, and there's a Q&A. And why don't we look at About Into Spring 2009 Gnosticism? Well, let's see. Michael Maceo. At least there's a name and a face. Dear readers, my teacher once told me if something is spiritually correct, it must also be scientifically correct. This makes eminent sense to me and has motivated me over the years to find a parallel truth in these two approaches to truth. The ideas presented into or drawn from a wide range of experiences, the most profound of which I had while being trained in the Holy Order of Mans. I don't know what Mans is. An esoteric school of initiation from 1970 to 1977. While in the Holy Order of Mans, I came to know the great Sufi teacher Murshid Samuel Lewis, attending many of his lectures in San Francisco. Also in San Francisco, during my priesthood training, I took a complete course in the tarot given personally by Jason Lauderhand, a renowned tarot expert and one-time head of the Builders of the d.tube in Los Angeles. These lessons were generously supplemented by Mother Ruth Blyton, the co-director of the Holy Order of Mans, spent many hours with me one-on-one explaining the deeper truths hidden in the major arcana, the first 22 cards of the tarot. In the mid-1980s, I had the good fortune of meeting, conversing, and meditating with Katagiri Roshi, student of Daisetsu Suzuki and head of the Minnesotan Zen Center in Minneapolis. I did kind of notice some Zen stuff going on there. One of the Katagiri's students is Natalie Goldberg, the famed author of Writing Down the Bones. I'm forever in her debt for getting me started through her book as a writer. Among other books and authors to whom I am indebted are A Curse in Miracles, Houston Smith, Joseph Campbell, J. Christopher Murdy, and scientists David Baum, Richard Feynman, and Hans Jenny. In ensuing years, I have also received extensive training in landmark education and personal development program, largely based on teaching of Werner Erhard and the philosopher Martin Heidegger. I spent a few years in studying New Thought through Unity School of Religious Studies. I also immersed myself in the works of Satguru Sivaya, Subramanian Swami of the Himalayan Academy on the island of Kauai. My first love, however, is the Holy Order of Mans, and I have maintained a close personal relationship with former members of that order, especially Masters Timothy Harris and Jessica Lucas of the Gnostic Order of Christ in San Jose, California. You can find links to their websites through the whom. I fell in love with the teaching. Did I just whistle there? Teachings of the Rosicrucians, the Theosophists, and Rudolf Steiner, all interpreted through the imitable Father Paul Blyton, founder and head of the whom. These teachings continue to influence me deeply and guide me in my inner work. Sincerely, Michael Maciel. Interesting stuff. One of the things that I think about is persecution throughout history. We tend to think of World War II a lot with the persecution of Jews. And then we look back even further. And right now, we hear a lot of crying out of the persecution of Christianity. I would say more persecution about religious orders, especially those of the Christian, the Catholic, and the Muslim, basically the Abrahamic religions. And if we look through the official narrative of history, they've all conducted a lot of wars, a lot of destruction, a lot of hate, a lot of killing. They've definitely, I don't know if you can't really call it a genocide, but a religious extinction of the Gnostics. Yes, they've done that. And in their control over close to 2,000 years at least, or close, maybe let's say really 14 to 1600 years. Still, that's a lot, close to 2,000. We are where we are today. So, as someone who looks into aspects of spirituality, I am not looking at the Abrahamic religions for it. So, I mean, that's what everyone grows up with. It's like, hey, you grow up in this world today, your regular meals are cereal, hamburgers and hot dogs, pizza. We call that food. Yet, and then you grow up and you go, wow, all that stuff that's in these foods. And then you realize the great offerings that Mother Nature has, and all that food just doesn't appeal to you anymore. Which is interesting, right? Same thing. We grow up with these religious dogmas, religious scriptures, teachers, I guess, who say one thing but act a very different way. And they say that they are chosen by God to teach God's word, yet they don't practice God's word. That doesn't sound right or even feel right to me. And I know that's the same way for a lot of people. So why would you still pass on and look into and believe their great work when it's not your, or probably I would say it's not God's great work? And I think a lot of people who are waking up are into that, and they look more deeply into other things and see what may have been inverted and perverted. And that's fine. I think, hey, we have to relook at the things that we were offered and shown just as much as the things that we haven't been shown. And the biggest thing I get, that gets me, but I get it too, is that when a lot of these people who are woke start pointing to, hey, you have to go and find Jesus. Jesus is good. I like Jesus. But go back to a religious form of thought that has been day in, day out, year after year, over millennia, been taught to us and fed to us. And look where we are today. We are as far away from the teachings of Jesus Christ as ever before. Yet we want to go back to those teachings. And that those teachings are the McDonald's and Burger King and Taco Bell of the actual teachings. And so we have to go and look and find, hey, what's the good stuff? What's the real teachings? What's the important things that we weren't told about? And I think I would agree with more of that stuff than anything else. And then we talk about today, all the people, so-called truthers in the movement, saying, oh, I'm being censored. You know who was censored? The Gnostics. They weren't censored just by taking away their voice or their YouTube channel. They were censored by death through something called heresy, by being a pagan, by being accused from someone else that they are worshiping evil or telling people lies, through death. So imagine going through that today. Oh, I'm being censored. Oh, you really want to be censored? You want to see how censorship used to work? Well, being burned at the stake would be one of them. So it makes you wonder, if they censored those people back in the day, we haven't seen censorship yet. We'll know when we're getting closer to the truth, because they want to shut it down. They'll shut it down in more ways than one. And we've seen it being shut down. When you actually get too close to the truth and reveal it to the public, what happens? You end up floating in a river somewhere, even though you may be a world-class swimmer. Maybe you're just taking a walk out at 3 a.m. in the morning, 5 miles away from where you live. No questions asked. People will say, oh, it was just an accident. But people who look into and research the official narrative see the illogical reasonings behind it. It's easy to know that they didn't just sleepwalk 5 miles and fall into a body of water and drown. It's probably more heinous than that. Let's look at chat. Kathy B. The Choctaw symbol has rattlesnakes. Captain Will, truth will set you free from the error that binds you, Bob George, people to people. Let me look at the black snake, sorry. Excuse me, burping. I don't see a hand, or eye in a hand symbol. It's the rattlesnake. But the rattlesnake has been symbolized quite often. I mean, in the start of the American Revolution, those are rattlesnakes. It's the term "don't tread on me." I don't think it's quite the same, Kathy B. I'm talking more about the hand and the eye in the hand symbol, not necessarily the rattlesnake. This is more like closer to that of, well, I could see that, but there's no eye in the hand. Again, what I'm talking about with the snake is, see, positioned below the rattlesnake are the words, "Don't tread on me." The flag is named after American general and politician Christopher Gadsden, who designed it in 1775 during the American Revolution. It was used by the Continental Marines as an early model flag, along with the military flag. I'll bet you that modern day indoctrinated person won't even know about that. Kathy B. Back in 1988, when the new revised edition of the Nakarada Gnostics book came out, I was teaching at a Catholic school. They had an emergency meeting. Yeah, I still see Gnosticism as being hated upon by Christians and Catholics alike. Man, to think that the Christians and Catholics would have a common enemy that wasn't the Muslims strikes me as funny. And agnostics are hated just as much as atheists. I don't know why. Doubting Thomas, the disciple. I mean, wasn't Thomas Jesus' stepbrother anyway? Yet, lump in agnostics with atheists. Every time, even when I say, hey, don't lump in agnostics with atheists, there's a big difference. And I think agnosticism is great because you keep looking into it. If someone's gonna find God and the truth, it's gonna be someone who keeps searching, regardless if they think they found the answer. And I think that's maybe just based off of my personality and why my career ended up being in quality assurance. Because even though I think I might have tested a majority of things to be good, I'll keep testing. I'll keep try to tweak things around that I may not have thought of, and I do find a lot of things. And it's a mindset. Most people are satisfied with what they've tested or what they've done. I go a little bit over that and say, whoa. I'm not satisfied with what I've done, and there's still time. Let's keep going. So it is a mentality. It is a thought process. And man, I can't wait to talk to you, Kathy B, with your stories. Now, what else is there with the thoughts? So, one of the things that I've been thinking of as well. Oh, and I didn't show you guys the picture. I'm sorry. Here you go. Don't tread on me. I'm not making it up. The Gadsden flag. I don't know why I'm burping so much. What did I eat today? Pancakes. Breakfast for dinner. Kids love breakfast for dinner. All right. Kathy B. But they said the book was really just the Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and Acts, I think. It's like, why would you limit any information on God and the truth? It's like, and why not tell the reasoning behind other scriptures and why that's not? And if they don't say that that's that's the entirety of it. When you look into it and you research and you look at the symbolism used by those who are higher up, who are supposedly the gatekeepers of God, they tend to use the symbols and symbolism of doctrine that aren't supposed to be told to the masses. And that's why there's a thing called the occult and the esoteric. There's the exoteric, something for the masses to be told, and there's the esoteric, those who are in the elite, I guess you would say, or who are allowed to know. They're in that club, they're in that society, whatever it is, the organization, they're the higher ups, they've made it. They're told the real secrets that won't be told to the masses. But then we're here to try to figure that out. What's true, what's not true. Again, the quote earlier from my quote of the day. There are two ways to fool you. They try to make you believe in something that isn't true. That's easy enough. A lot of people are awake to that. But then again, there's the other half. They tell you things so you refuse to acknowledge it as the truth. And so I think a lot of the times they like to tout those things in the guise of Satanism or Luciferianism or whatever. Because when they go ahead and use it, they invert it and pervert it. And so you think that it's a sign of evil. And when it's supposedly actually a sign of good that they've just taken over. And they do that quite a lot. And so basically what you end up worshiping for symbols and sigils and things like that are the negative aspects. And what you end up fearing and hating are the positive aspects. You won't ever find that out until you keep looking. But I can't tell you that. I won't tell you that. Because I'm not going to convince you. You're only going to convince yourself. Because I've been there. I've done these things. And I've told people the truth of what these people say. I'm not saying it. I'm just showing you them saying it. Just like my last video with NASA. There are reasons behind why they can't get back to the moon. Those aren't my reasons. Those are reasons they themselves say. NASA astronauts, NASA directors, NASA, etc. They're the ones who keep saying it, not me. Yet you don't believe them. So when do you believe these controllers, these people in authority? When it suits you? Yeah. Because if I tell you, hey, did you know that NASA destroyed the technology to get back to the moon? That they destroyed all the I guess the film negatives, original film negatives of all the photographs and videos. They destroyed their telemetry data. They can't even rebuild the Saturn V rockets, Saturn V rockets that they had. They can't get past low Earth orbit right now. They can't figure out how to get past the Van Allen radiation belts. And you're going to be like, man, you're such a conspiracy theorist. I'm like, no, that's NASA saying they can't do these things. Not me. Just go look it up. They won't look it up because they don't want their worldview shattered. But that's okay. Nothing that can be done about it. Let's see. Kathy B. They didn't have a copy of the book. Then in the early 90s, another book, Book of Q, came out. Maybe it was the same, but the Lutheran pastor had everyone read a book debunking it. I must have a copy somewhere of the one he said to read. Q. Q pops up quite often, doesn't it? Now, one of the things that I also like to think about is darkness and shadows. Because when we think about things, we usually think about light, speed of light. But we don't think of the opposite. Is there a speed to darkness? Is it the same as the speed of light? Is there a speed at all of darkness at all? When light hits a object, it creates a 2D representation of that 3D object called a shadow. Now, that shadow, many people may think of it as the absence of light. But what if it is there's a, I don't know, what do you call it? Is there a speed to darkness? Oh, the Gospel of Thomas. Yeah, I read that. I'm just reading chat. So if we have a 2D representation of a shadow from a 3-dimensional object when light is cast upon it, is there something above that? Can we be 3-dimensional shadows of 4th-dimensional objects of something that's cast upon the 4th-dimensional object? Whatever that is. Can that happen? But the thing is, we can't ever see or notice a 1-dimensional object from the 2-dimensional shadow. So maybe it doesn't keep going the way that we think it could keep going. And we always seem to keep thinking of things in material views, like harken back to the beginning of the show when I talked about a point of light in total darkness. We tend to always try to go towards the object, just like we would in the material world. But why can't we have things and thoughts and imaginations? Because it doesn't work the same way as the material. We don't have the senses in that realm, in that form of consciousness. It's just pure consciousness, our thoughts and our imaginations. So what if we have, what if our thoughts and our imaginations can be guided by something else, not us? That's kind of, hey, here's something to it. Yeah, let's see if you can catch it. I mean, if we think of it as the evolutionary sense, do we just all of a sudden think of something and go, hey, that's it, a wheel, we just invented a wheel? Or hey, that's it, fire, just strike on things and sparks will fly. The idea has to come from somewhere, right? Does it just happen spontaneously and then act on that spontaneous thought or imagination? Just think about it, of making fire. Now there are different methods. One is rubbing 2 sticks together, cause it to heat up with friction. And it takes a lot of effort to do it. Was that just on accident? Someone was just doing that just because they're bored, trying to make music, felt the sticks go warmer and go, hey, if I do this hard enough, maybe it'll catch on fire. But of course you're going to need material to light on fire. The sticks themselves won't light on fire. But if someone thought of that, what made them think that, hey, if we keep rubbing the sticks together, it'll get hard enough to spark, to make a hot small coal somewhere to fire up? And they go and do that. What is that? Just, hey, that's a weird thought, let's just do that. It's like someone talks to them, hey, how'd you come up with the idea of rubbing 2 sticks together? Because I don't know. So if they don't even know where the thought came from, was it their thought? Or was it some thought that was transitioning, floating around somewhere? And then they got to that thought and they noticed it. It's just like when we see things out in nature. We just see things and go, huh, I never noticed that before. That's interesting. What if we did it this way instead? That's one thing. But to have just thoughts come up where if you've never seen it in nature before, that is totally different. Like, who would think of coming up with a straight edge ruler when you don't see anything very straight in nature, except for maybe the horizon? And the wheel is something that could easily come up with in nature, because you look up, you see the moon, it's a full moon, and you go, wow, that's a circle. It's like, what if we try to come up with something like that? Whether it's a plate or a ball or a frisbee or a wheel, whatever it is. You go, oh, look at that. I just came up with this. Where'd you come up with that? Oh, look at the moon. It's fully round. I was like, oh, okay. Hey, that's a good idea. Who would have thought? Because who would have thought, really? And so sometimes I wonder if there's, how people think about, like, there's spiritual guides or like soul, like angels, whatever. What if there's something like that for your thoughts? There's like a thought guide. There's someone out there or something that's trying to give you ideas or try to guide you to a specific train of thought. We would, of course, never know. It's not like they, or whatever it is, manifests itself into your imagination. Or maybe they try, but they can't. It's hard because maybe they don't have a physical manifestation. It's just like when I took ayahuasca. There is no physical manifestation of mother. It's just, it's like a collection of, I don't know. I don't even know if there's a word for it, for that type of sense. It's not like based on feelings. It's not based on words. It's just based on communication. It's like a different form of communication that is very difficult to describe. It's basically like a dream that you, well, one, you can't wake yourself from. Two, you can't end. It's like a controlled dream. That's what I can think of it as. As you're dreaming, it feels like you're dreaming, but everything is happening that you can't tell the difference whether it is happening physically or not. It is happening. Yet the communication between you and a dream, it's the same way with ayahuasca. It's still communicative. You can only make sense of it in from your material experience aspect, but you can't make sense of it in another way because we haven't experienced that other way. Which is a shame, because I'd like to understand it better. Have to be one thing, of course, that it is a little embarrassing to talk about, but hell, I'll talk about it. Is guys who grow up during puberty or even pre-puberty, wet dreams when you wake up and well, not just wet dreams, but also, yeah, when you pee in your pants. It's like, I remember as a kid when I peed in pants, and I peed in my pants a lot when I was sleeping, is I would dream that I would wake up and go to the bathroom and I'd be peeing in the bathroom. I go, oh, good, I won't get in trouble for peeing my pants. And the next thing I know, I'm thinking, oh no. I wake up, It's like, oh, I peed in my pants, but I thought I was peeing in the bathroom. Dang it. That's what happened. And the same thing with pre-puberty, puberty, you know, I have a wet dream. Yeah, that's when you're, yeah, you know what it is. And I've never had sex with anyone before, but in my mind I was having sex. It was like, oh, this is what sex feels like. Wow, this is weird. It's like you wake up and you go, wait, I wasn't having sex at all. What's going on here? It's like, what is it that was transpiring there? It's like having an experience when you didn't have the experience before, but you've definitely experienced it in that dream. That's now that is peculiarity, I would say. And that's those are things that people just want to ignore and say, oh, it's just a coincidence. Oh, it's just, you must have seen something in your life and that's why, you know, maybe it was like some TV or movie and that's what you think what sex was. It's like, okay. I mean, I may not see the details in that dream. And that's the problem with dreams. In dreams, we can't remember the details. The closer that we look into the details when we wake up, the more blurry it is. Ayahuasca is different. Is you see too much of the detail and you remember it. You know, unlike a dream, when you wake up, you don't remember it. Ayahuasca, you wake up, you remember it. It's an experience that's not forgotten. Whereas a dream, it's a I don't know what dreams are, but it's an experience you don't remember. That's what it is. Ayahuasca is an experience that you remember. And I think that's the same with if you're going to take other types of plants. Or maybe even mushrooms, I hear people say. But think of it, just plants, Mother Nature stuff. You know that I always tend to wonder too. Is like there are a lot of things that we eat that are poisonous to us, yet if we process them, like boil them, or if we add something else to it, inhibitors, whatever. It's like who figured this stuff out? This is way before current science and experimentation. They figured this stuff out centuries ago. That hey, if you want to get this experience, you got to do this. You can't do this. You can't do that. You have to do this. It's like how many people had to go through that trial and error, and until you got to the right thing consistently. And the same thing with poisons. Like the ones that'll kill you. It's like, people keep dying by eating this thing. Why don't we just not eat it? And someone else is going, hey, why don't we just try boiling it? Maybe that'll get the toxins out. Like, boil it? Where'd you get that idea? Oh, someone else told me that they boiled something and they didn't die from it. It's like, why did that person think of boiling it? You know, it always goes back to the point of who was the first one and how did they know? Obviously, it wasn't through experience because they're the first ones. They had to have thought of it. Or maybe something made them think of it, or they had an experience like ayahuasca or some other type of drug, psychedelic, whatever you want to call it. And that's how they got the idea. You know, it's just very weird. Just the first one who comes up with an idea and starts to do and try to manifest that idea into the physical realm. Like, and why is it always just one? Or maybe it's not one, because sometimes when we look at these inventors throughout history, the official history, these inventors seem to have hundreds of thoughts, of inventions. They don't stop at one. They've got like a flood of ideas that come to them. Just when you look at the movie Back to the Future, you got Doc sitting on the bathroom or in the toilet. That's where he comes up with his ideas. It's like, where does that thought just stem from? Where does it come from? It's just random. It's just I don't think it's just coincidental that some thought could just come up and it just makes perfect sense to manifest into a physical invention or a machine or whatever it is. Certain things I can understand when it's observable in nature and you try to mimic it. Like when we were trying to make flying machines, we mimicked birds, and then we just ended up doing more different types of tests and saying, hey, we're too heavy. That's why we'll probably not be able to flap our wings and fly. How about we utilize something else, type of thing? That I can understand. But when there are things that aren't observed in nature and someone gets the idea to come up with it, and all of a sudden that idea takes form into the physical reality that we are in right now, that's what gets me. That's the crazy aspect of thoughts. And thoughts don't get enough credit. Thoughts and dreams, psychedelic, higher conscious experiences, whether you're religious, they shun it. Whether you're scientific, you're in the science community, they shun it. It seems like you just have to be curious, and to hell with either of those dogmas. We're going to just go ahead and experience it, see if it's worth experiencing or not. And it's not like, again, no one takes ayahuasca for the psychedelic recreational experience. You would want to take something that doesn't make you puke, diarrhea, and gives you some form of life-changing experience. Like, you want to become a better person or quit doing some bad things, take ayahuasca. You will change. I think more people the people who don't change their behavior after taking ayahuasca, they don't take ayahuasca again. I'm teetering on the edge of taking ayahuasca again. But that second experience was a tough experience to me. And it made me humble. But I wonder what the other experiences will be. It's like, did I not learn from my humbleness? And I'm thinking about that right now. And I think I do understand the humble aspect. That there is no inherent power to me in my form right now. But there is... I feel like there's like a pool of, just like there's a pool of thoughts that some people can seem to have access to, at least snippets of. There's a pool of energy, of something that's unmeasurable in some ways, but we're only given access to it by those who, these entities or beings or divinities, I don't know what you would call them, but they allow certain individuals. I don't know why. I don't know the steps. Maybe that's what certain organizations are formed for, like secret societies and things like that. Maybe someone figured out, hey, go through these practices and these rituals and you'll get to attain this. Oh, but then they'll tell you, oh, by the way, you can lose this. But Other things is more more open. It's like, hey, take this, you're gonna heal your mind of, I guess, ego. I think it really is ego. You realize that your self-importance that you want to cast onto others is part of a deception. And so you got to let go of that ego. And that's one of the first things that's out there, is that your ego really can't help anything or anyone. It just adds to the illusion. And illusion is a big part of it, the shadow. You know, we have light so we know who to fight. Or to see who we can see who to fight. I don't know. I can't remember which one. But then you look and you see the shadows. They form in your mind in ayahuasca. Like, I saw the shadow of a negative entity. Like, I would say it's like Satan or devil or whatever. I wouldn't know. It was just a shadow. And the shadow just formed. But it wasn't like slowly forming. It just was there. And I was just laughing at it because I realized it was a shadow. It had no power. Only its fear of, or its illusion, had any power over me. And I would confront it openly, and I just laugh at it because it's like, it can't do anything. It's like, why are we so afraid? It can't do anything. It's just a shadow. It's just an illusion. Yeah, people are very, very afraid of the illusion and the shadows, the darkness and whatnot. And that's where it gets its power, the shadow. It's just an interesting thing. It's like, when you look at your own shadow, you're not afraid of it at all. It's just a shadow. It can't do anything. It has to do what you do. It doesn't have a mind of its own. It doesn't have control on its own. Yet, all these illusions that are going on that has no control over you, has no control over anything, just whoever is the puppet master. And people are afraid of it. They're afraid of the illusion that's being created. And if we can get people to see past the illusions, I think they'll laugh at the shadows and what they're afraid of all this time. And what really are you afraid of? I know certain atheists, they aren't afraid to die. I know certain Christians that aren't afraid to die. I know certain agnostics that aren't afraid to die. And so the hard part for me, I feel like death is the easy part, because you don't have to really worry about anything anymore when we're dead. We worry about a lot of things when we're alive. We worry about the people who are alive. We don't really worry about the people who have died. So all this worry when you die, that goes away. But when you're alive, you worry a lot about the people who are living, of course. And part of that is we just want them to be able to live, I guess, without the worries that we had, maybe. Teaching them how to allow Mother Nature to provide and nurture them, and not to have some other form take its place in that regard, whether it's government or other institutions or another human, just to have to rely on other people who can use that to control you. We need to stop that. That's for sure. Every truther slash shit hits the fan type of person. What do you call those people again? The people who just can't, I don't know. Basically people who just want to live away from the control systems. live on their own, being able to do their own stuff. Mescaline is interesting. I've never tried mescaline. I don't think I've ever wanted to. But it's hard to know, like, certain drugs. Whether it's worth taking or not. For me, I would say if it's recreational, I don't want to take it. There is no recreation that I enjoy from drugs. But if there's a lesson that can be learned from a spiritual or higher consciousness aspect of a drug, I will go ahead and try it, because that's what we're here for, right? The experiences, regardless if you're whatever idea that you take, spiritually or non-spiritually. So the idea of darkness and shadows and light, and it's an interesting one. Like, one of these things, like, I noticed when I was looking at a picture to probably use for my video, my live stream, is candlelight, flames, matches. They don't cast a shadow. The wood or the candle itself, and the wick, that casts a shadow, but the actual flame itself, there's no shadow cast on that. So the flames aren't material. Well, not exactly a gas, but isn't that interesting? I wonder if I can showcase it. I don't want to burn anything. I need it. I guess, is there a lot of light? Yeah, I guess there's a lot of light. Maybe I'll do it this way. All right, let's see if we can see a shadow of a flame. And yeah, see, I know it's really light. You can see you can see the brightness, but there's no shadow. You can see part of the match. You can see my thumb. It's not a very sharp shadow, but you don't see the shadow of the flame itself. It's a better example of it when you see it in pictures. I think I may do it tonight. Create a video of it. Let me try to get a image real quick. Okay, wait. So mescaline is peyote, Kathy B? I never knew that. All right, here we go. Fire or a flame cast a shadow. What? Why doesn't a fire or a flame cast a shadow? Oh, so they're trying to see it. And so here's one with the wick, although we do see this weird outline. I'd say that looks like a shadow. Here we can see that it's not really, we can't see the shadow. See what I mean? I just think that's interesting. Here we go. Now we do see somewhat of a shadow of that flame. But here we don't. That's definitely bright. Ooh, you don't see on the shadow. You know, I always just wondered if there's anything out there that doesn't cast a shadow, like a material object that doesn't. I don't know if we would call fire a material object. Okay, depends on the surface. My tin shows the flame. Oh, that's another aspect I didn't think about, is the surface that the shadows cast upon. That adds a different dynamic about it, doesn't it? Because there's got to be two light sources. Sorry, two light sources. Because you're going to have that one light source where it's just going to show the shadow of the matchstick or the candle. And then you're going to have the flame itself that casts the light. But of course, it's not going to cast a shadow of itself. Unless it's a shadow in a different viewing angle, most likely a down angle. Yeah. I guess where else will my thoughts go today? Exploring the darkness to find the light. Yeah. Right hand algo in D Live. There's always something above it. I think he might have been mentioning that. I wish they gave a time when people are saying things in D Live. And like, I mean, these things that we don't tend to question or think about very much, or it's just a very, very simple explanation that someone says out, maybe an authority figure. So why do we just accept that and just go on about our lives? Why do we need sleep? Why does everything that's living, especially in the animal kingdom, need sleep? The simple answer is we need to rest. We need to rest. We need to build back our strength. But by eating, and same thing with eating and drinking. So we eat and we drink to gain energy, or keep our energy going. But then, why do we sleep? I mean, we don't gain energy from sleeping. It's just, maybe that's how we heal. So does that mean, like, I wonder, I know we're basing it on translations, like, say there is a powerful being, an entity that we would call a god. Heck, not even say the highest of the high, but maybe even angels and whatnot. Do they sleep? Do they dream? If we're made an image of them, do we assume that they are just almost perfect beings of humans? Thus, they do sleep. Do they eat? Do they poop? We would assume that they don't. We assume that they're above the material plane. We assume, well, then do they not have teeth? Do they not have an exit to relieve themselves if they don't need to eat or drink? Do they even blink or have eyelids? If they don't need to sleep, why would they need eyelids? Things like that. If they don't dream, or if they do dream, what do they dream about? All this other stuff. As we don't think about those aspects of higher beings. We don't. No one seems to. And let's see what else. Can they be poisoned? Assuming mythology, they can be poisoned. And they have eaten, and they do have drinks, so I would assume that they function very similar to humans do. Have you heard of the Dark Night of the Soul Spirit? No, I haven't. And let's see, what else is there? How would one know, like, these higher beings, or the highest of the high, know that they are the highest being? I mean, wouldn't it be ignorant like how it's hard for us to imagine because we have all these limitations. It seems like. But let's see where our thoughts go. If we were the first ones out to, if we somehow appeared in on Earth, and we were the only ones around. Yet anything that we thought of or said, just like say a simulation in a computer, it happened. It's like God mode, right? And would we say, hey, I can do anything you want. I'm not waking up. I'm not dreaming. You're like, stop yourself. Yeah, I'm awake. It's like, where'd everyone go? It's like, wait, am I God? If I'm God, how about appearing is a huge mountain before me, right? Bing, huge mountain appears before you. You're like, whoa, what's going on? All right, let there be people, and people show up. What is going on? Okay, let's get me a let me fly like Superman. You know, all of a sudden you're flying like Superman. It's like, whoa. And then, but are you the God? You could create things. Like, I guess you could say, okay, show me who is God. And then nothing appears. Or something appears. And then you go, okay, that's God. So, and then you ask God, hey, God, do you have someone who's your God? And then the God says, say if he says no, you go, okay, you're God. And then if he says, yeah, here's my God. And he goes, my God, can you show yourself? The new God goes like, does it go infinite? And then it's like, they're all powerful before you. You have all these powers that manifest whatever that you think or conjure. And it's like, wow, what's the importance of all this? I mean, do I have the power enough to destroy them? Let me see. You're destroyed. And it's like, nothing happens. Okay, nothing happens. Wait, do they have the power to destroy me? And then if they do, then you're destroyed. But then if you don't, then they go, no, they don't. So then it's like, what's the purpose of all this? I mean, even with these great powers of creation, maybe even destruction, you're still going to be questioning, right? You're still going to be wondering, why is this happening? Why is this not happening? And all of this stuff. There are rules. There are rules. I mean, the rules have always been applied. Same thing when I say, you know, when the esoteric cultists, whatever they say, you know, order out of chaos. As the thing is, they create the chaos so they can control people to fall in line to create their order. What they don't realize is nature has its own order. Nature isn't chaos. And they keep telling people that, no, if you're left to nature, it would just be chaos. But the thing is, nature has its own rules that it never, ever breaks. Although the people who are the controllers of the masses, who they set up rules, they break their rules all the time. Nature never breaks its own rules. That's one thing that we can count on. Nature has its own rules and it never breaks them. Whereas people who tell you that nature is chaos, that they're there to provide order, they will break their own rules. Why do you think? And of course, people here who are watching and listening, they already know. You guys already know. They do it to assume power, to control people. But people out there who are controlled, they're never going to see that. Or something is going to happen for them to see that. But we don't know what that is. Like, you would think that would have been my mind, or I would have been woke by, say, watching if I watched, I don't know who I would call the most woke person. Yeah, who is the most woke person, excuse me, in the world right now, especially any content creator? Let's just say it's 4 years ago before I was starting the awakening process, and I watched Eric DeBay. That guy would just think that guy was crazy. Anything he said, I'd be like, yeah, it kind of makes sense, but yeah, it's not really the way things are. But I watch him now, it's like, yeah, this guy is onto something. You know, I agree with it. I've done my own research. I agree with some of the things he says. Most of the things he says. Like, he seems right on, but then, you know, back then I wouldn't at all agree with anything pretty much. And what woke me up? Bernie Sanders. Like right now, I look at Bernie Sanders and I think weakness. I think sellout. I think another controller in waiting, another person part of the system. You know, I see that. But when I was waking up, I was thinking, oh man, this guy saying he wants to say, you know, representing people who are against the current system. But if I didn't wake up then, if I was still asleep and I was looking at Bernie Sanders now, I probably would have never started the awakening process. It was what he did at that time in history. His actions then, not his actions now. So it's just really peculiar what will wake people up. And I know people who have woken up from the political system, at least, only to fall back into the political system. That's, I'd say, everyone. There's no one person who has followed me through that journey of being woken up by Bernie Sanders in 2016 to where I am at right now. No one. If you go back into my earlier videos, I had up to maybe 12 people on Zoom. I wasn't using Zoom. I was using some other program, and then I switched to Zoom because it was cheaper, because they were just basically using Zoom servers for their own overlay and stuff like that. But yeah, of all the people, and there were times where I'd have like 50, 60 people on the live stream watching what was going on. They've even had their own shows, and some, Kelly Lane, I think it's her birthday today because it's on Facebook. Happy birthday. If you're watching, I don't think you are. James from Manitowoc, of course, he's still going for the Green Party, and Jesse Ventura, of all people, trying to get him onto third party or the Green Party. No one else has kept up with any of their live streams, but if they are, they're just back into the fold with trying to fix the system politically. They've never gone down any rabbit holes. They've never thought of anything that the government was doing was conspiratorial at all. Maybe some, surely. Eric, and Christian, and a few others, Nash, right? But in total, no one else thinks the Earth is flat. No one else thinks that excuse me, that history has been a lie. Maybe one or two, but you know, they don't dwell on it or make videos about it. So it was a very, very solo and lonely journey, and going down different rabbit holes, different people, and you know, if I was talking a year from now, I would probably be praising certain individuals with their knowledge of things, and then I look at them now and it's like, wow, how little they seem to know. It's like I thought they would be way ahead of me now. but I feel like I'm more ahead of them. What happened? Yeah, they'll still get the thousands of hundreds of thousands of subscribers, thousands of people watching their live stream, or hundreds if they have a live stream. You know, people lining up to have them on their show to interview. Me, I'm at the bottom of the barrel asking anybody to come and talk with me, and I want to talk with anybody. Nobody will come on and talk. That's how things are. It's just really weird. Let me try to get that blur out of the way. There you go. I need to figure something out. This camera is not very good at focusing on me. It must be the backdrop. But then again, I do listen to other people. Like I've been listening to Subtle Infinity for a while. I think he's Hawaiian, part Hawaiian, something like that. About the white power something. Let's look. Excuse me. I've been watching a lot of his videos and hearing him out, and while I don't agree with that, I feel like it's still going down the going into the opposition, the hate, you know, like impulse information, white truth is not our truth. We are changing Max Egan, deep inside the rabbit hole of white truthers. I mean, I don't like going down that whole route of putting every white person into a lump. Just like I wouldn't do the same with blacks or Asians or Hispanics or Native Americans or anybody else. But when I reflect on it, just think of all the truthers out there, or the people who are on even like people who are not supporting the globe earth model. You could call them flat earthers. White. Like as far as the flat earthers, I would say there's who is there? There's D Marble and Subtle Infinity and Zen Garcia, that make a lot of their own content and stuff. And me, I guess, if you want to lump me in. Deep inside the rabbit hole, I don't know who DITRH is. Or pretty much. Oh, hi, Plain Truth. How's it going? Like, as far as like people I see, not many minorities. And the ones who are in the minority don't have as much as, of course, the white people. And I look at before that, the people who are in the truther community that are very, very big and well known. And some I like watching, some I don't care to watch, but still white. Like Richie from Boston, white, lots of hundreds of thousands of subscribers. I don't like watching his stuff anymore. Max Egan, I think he's mixed, but he's basically white. Mark Passio, white. Who else is there? There's the High Impact Flicks. I like watching him. White. And then you get to like even the right wingers, like who will push going back into a system of control, but on the right, on the conservative side. Yeah, you've got people like We Are Change, Alex Jones. Joe Rogan is kind of like weird, independent, but he's white. Basically, everybody's white. Majority of it is like, where are the I can't be the only Asian guy. I mean, Zen, I would call him Asian. But is Zen Asian? I don't know. I don't know what ethnicity it is. And then like oh yeah, along with D Marble, there's isn't Vegan Warrior, but he doesn't have his content anymore. But he doesn't also push Flat Earth. He pushes the same thing as me, is pushing against the controllers' official narrative agenda type of thing. So there's very few, but not many people. Oh man, the Plain Truth, you interviewed Mexican. You gotta show me where that is. Psh, Jose G.G. Gonzalez. Yeah, he's Spanish, but he's not a truther. He wants you to go back to the controllers of the masses, that's for sure. Or at least he works for them. That's easily seen. But still, the people that I see that are white in the Flat Earth community, Nathan Oakley, Marty Leeds, Plain Truth, like a lot of people, and people I interviewed, they're white. I don't see them as pushing the white agenda and stuff, but they're not really big either. So I don't like lumping in the different ethnicities, but you know, it's the same thing when I look at Hollywood, right? It was like, yeah, I noticed these things. It's like, tell me an Asian that's been cast in a lead role for a Hollywood box office, or has their own big, like their own universe, right? Like everyone, the SJWs are going on about how there aren't enough like female leads. When they do have a female lead, it's a white female lead, as like superheroes and things like that. And you don't see, heck, what was it? Gosh, Doctor Strange, the mentor. I forget her name or his name, but yeah, in the comics it is an Asian male. In the movie, is a white female. Oh, Jay Basel. All right, let's see what you got to say, Jay Basel. I may not entertain this for very long. Steve? Can't hear you. Jackie Chan? Well, what's a movie Jackie Chan was just the lead? All right, Jay Basel's not doing anything. Name a movie with Jackie Chan as the only lead that doesn't have a white or black person in it to share that stage with them. Like Shanghai Noon. Sure, the lead was it Owen Wilson, and you've got the other one where it's the black comedian. Like, I don't see a Hollywood movie with Jackie Chan as the only male lead. It's always shared with someone else. But look, I don't care. Like, I don't give a crap about Hollywood. I just notice these things that people are just saying, oh, yeah, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, I'm pointing something out and you guys don't see it. Is it because you're white and it doesn't fit your agenda? It's like, I'm not calling you SJWs. I'm not an SJW myself. I don't care if Hollywood doesn't cast an Asian person. Hollywood is Hollywood. They can do whatever they want. I just noticed that, hey, if you're saying that SJWs are pushing something, it's like, no, those SJWs are just pushing the same thing. They're still pushing a white agenda. But people don't like to hear it. They think I'm racist. It's like, no, Hollywood's the racist. They don't care about Asian people. I don't care if they don't care about Asian people. I have nothing to do with them. They can be racist if they want. I've got nothing to do with Hollywood. Let's see. Steve Balls. Oh, now you type something you don't want to talk. poet is moot. Hollywood is catering to Chinese money now. They're financing everything now. Can't be. You're right, though. Yeah, remember Hollywood at least used to use like the Chinese as like the antagonists. They don't do that anymore. They do have Chinese influence, Chinese money. That is true. You'll see a lot of Chinese as being good protagonist sidekicks. You'll see a lot of that now. I wonder if that's why was it Iron Man 3, the Mandarin? They didn't cast an Asian male on that one. Another white actor. You know, it's like I don't know. Was it also I don't know, there's just a lot of whitewashing of Asians in Hollywood. That's a fact. Doesn't matter to me. It's just a fact. And people will deny it. Yeah, white people in red face too. Heck, Tonto. Remember Zorro? Tonto was who's the guy that plays Jack Sparrow? Tonto was white. Yeah, white Jesus. Look, there is a white agenda, I won't lie. But not gonna rail on about it and excuse me. I would talk about it, yeah. I'll say my part. I'm not gonna be censored by it. People can call me racist. I'm not the racist one. I'm not claiming superiority. I'm not claiming victimhood because I never tried to be cast in a movie. I don't want to be cast in a movie. If anything, I want to make my own movie. I'll want to have my own cast. Johnny Depp, that's right. So, but it's you know, if there's hypocrisy on some Chinese or Asian organization, I'll hear it out. If it's true, I'll be like, yeah, I agree with you. It's like, I have nothing to do with them. I'm not them. Don't lump me in with them just because I'm Asian too. You know, same thing. I won't lump you in just because you're white, or I won't lump you in just because you're black. But is there an agenda from the power players, the controllers of the masses? Are they pushing something as far as racial connotations? I don't really think of it as racial connotations. I see it more of like bloodlines. In actuality, I see it more as a bloodline thing, and that happens to be your complexion, because most of the bloodlines are of that complexion. But that's how I see it as. I don't really see it as anything else. While I don't support the racism of any individual, like heck, even what's his name? Stinky Cash. Like, I was listening to him. He's going off about like the Jewish and Asian people in this organization that's pushing something. I was like, like it's funny, it's fine. Like if you want to make fun of Asians, hell, I can make fun of other races too. I think the easiest one that pisses off white people is how many white women I slept with in my history and how I'm married to one. They don't like that at all. So I don't even have to make fun of them. I just have to just tell them the truth. And they'll be like, they'll be like, small penis. And it's like, yeah, white women seem to love the small penis as long as it's yellow. But, you know, we could go on that tangent if they want. But they're the ones that's going to be angered. Like, I like to use the Tyrion Lannister quote, you know. Where was that quote? It was a good quote. Hey, Chocolate Cyan, how's it going? Let's see. Hopefully. Oh yeah, this one. I think I put it on one of my quote of the days. Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not wear like armor, and it can never be used to hurt you. Yeah. Give me the racist terms for chinks and gooks and what have you. I use it to my advantage. You can't hurt me with it, but I know what I can get under your skin a lot easier than you get under my skin. I can assure you that. Let's see. Joaquin Phoenix has 2 movies coming up: The Joker and Mary Magdalene. I like to see both. The teaser for Joker was not bad. I never seen Mary Magdalene. I don't like the Hollywood interpretations of biblical stories. I feel like they tell some esoteric stuff with the exoteric, but I don't know what the purpose of that is. I think it's just more confusion, really. And I've been going on for 2 hours. No one likes to join in on this topic. I do like listening to you guys on chat. Let me know if you're watching this and want me to do an open topic, and we could talk about anything. I feel like this is almost an open topic anyway, because it's just about thinking. So I feel as though if you want to come in and talk about whatever, let's do it. I mean, most people who watch my uploads, it's not like they're gonna watch all 3-4 hours of it. They may stop at the 2-hour mark. Heck, they'll probably even stop at the 30-minute mark. So Plain Truth or Chocolate, if you guys want to come on in, or Shirley if you're still there, or Eric if you're lurking. Although Eric will always say hello, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, we just got to point out the obvious, that's for sure. Like I don't know any big name truther out there that's not white. Like a truther that's as big as like Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, like PewDiePie even, or Paul Logan Paul, Owen Benjamin even. I think I heard a joke that Owen Benjamin did, but I can't remember. Oh, make sure you watch Eric DeBay's Owen Benjamin video, latest video. Very good. But like, what is it? Oh yeah, I think Owen Benjamin did a joke on how he can't trust people with 2 first names. Isn't Owen Benjamin 2 first names? I just thought that was very ironic. Let's see. Max Egan definitely has quite a big following, like Mark Passio. If you go into the anarcho or anarchist type of truthers, yeah, all white. But when you do, I mean, I wouldn't lump in certain people as truthers when they're talking politically anyway. So I can't count on someone who's as big like Tim Black, who talks like very leftist issues, progressive. Seriously, unless one of you guys know. The Plain Truth. The link is in the description box on YouTube. So if you go down description box, you'll see join Zoom meeting. You click on that link, that'll get you in. It's not a Google Hangout or a Skype. It's Zoom. It's different. A second here. Let's see. And what I like about Zoom is when you share your pictures, it's actually better than if you share it on Google. Just saying. Bro Sanchez. No, I don't know who Bro Sanchez is. Is he a truther though? I don't know. Bro Sanchez TV, is that what it is? Excuse me. Let me see. Heisek can
What's
find.
up, Facebook and YouTube?
I never heard of Joe Sanchez. Let's see. Blood Money. Nipsey Hussle. What? I guess you could say kinda is. I don't know. Cool perspective. Definitely does esoteric stuff. I'll give him a look and see. I'll subscribe. Okay. Alright, there we go. And Aether Band Boy. Hey there, Aether Band Boy. You want to test out your mic? Ah, the plain truth. Man, how many pseudonyms do you have?
Well, in the Zoom, Iron Realm Media, you know that channel, Iron Realm Media?
Yeah, I know.
So when I was on their show a couple of weeks ago, and they were giving me a bad time about my use of my term ether band for what happens in the atmosphere on the horizon and water.
Yep.
So when I joined their show and it asked me to put my name in there, I thought I would just give them a bad time by naming myself Ether Band Boy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I realized I subscribe to a lot of channels.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so if you haven't heard of Feed Your Mind 2, he's African American and he does a lot of alt history truth.
Oh, it looks like I am subscribed. But yeah, he's only got 35K subscribers. I'm talking like anywhere from 100,000 to like a million or whatever, you know, those really huge people where they have a huge following, not just on YouTube, but of like some are really big on Facebook or somewhere else. And there just aren't many. Not that I care. Is truth no matter who speaks it, you know. I'm in that boat.
Yeah, I don't even think of. I wonder if that means that a person is pretty, I don't know, balanced, where I don't even think about the race card when it comes to truth. You know what I mean? I mean, it's an interesting point that you bring out, but it never even crossed my mind. It's like I don't categorize channels that way or people that way.
Yep.
But I suppose it is kind of interesting if you're talking about channels that have huge amounts of subs and they're only white. I suppose that is interesting.
Yeah.
So,
like I mean, I don't know. The thing is, that's English speaking channels because we're basically listening to a lot of English speaking channels, and most of them are going to be, of course, probably white because the majority of people who speak English are of whitest complexion, and there's not going to be many Asians. I would say if there's any Asian truthers out there that are speaking just their Asian language, they probably have a lot of followers from the Asian community. And not really anyone who speaks English as their major language. They're not going to go and watch them anyway and subscribe. So there's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a certain psychopathy as well. You know, you've got to be a certain caliber of personality to put yourself out there in that format and forum. I mean, like I've seen other, I watch certain music channels that do like there's this white guy, his name is Rick Beato, and he does a lot of engineering and music analysis. And then some of the other stuff that comes up in my feed, there's a couple of black guys that do like they're black and they, you know, they're in the hip hop scene, but they do reaction episodes to Led Zeppelin or classic rock, you know, stuff like they've never watched those kinds of videos or listened to that style of music before, so then they react to Queen for the first time. And they've got pretty big followings, but they're not truthers, you know what I mean? That's a genre of like music that they're talking about. They have huge channels.
I mean, ODD Reality, I like his stuff. He's got 250,000 subs. He does music too, but I don't listen to his music. I just like his.
Neither do I. I mean, I enjoyed it when I was at the Denver conference, but I was like, I wouldn't listen to this. But I don't listen to Conspiracy Guru. I don't listen to Alex. I mean, his music is fun as a one-hit wonder, but I'm like, this isn't like a platinum album for me, you know?
Yeah.
I just would not listen to that over and over and over again.
Oh, by the way, the Planisphere, do you have a name or?
I was just gonna say you can call me Travis.
Travis, okay.
Yeah.
Are you hidden or like are you anonymous on purpose?
No. I mean, I think no. When I made my channel, when I got into Flat Earth, I just made my channel The Plain Truth. My Bible interpretation channel where I did my podcast is called Rethinking Revelation. So none of my channels have my name in it, but that's not because I'm trying to be anonymous.
Okay.
I just like I suppose creative titles.
Do you show your face like on interviews and stuff like that?
Like if I'm interviewing somebody?
Yeah, or if someone's interviewing you?
Not really. I think now that you mention it in terms of like if I do an interview, I did a stream today with Mark Doxey and we looked at some of my footage and whatnot, and I've got my Streamlabs set up that my camera is focused on my wall that has album covers on it, and then I've got the Mona Lisa and Red Hen in the image. Like I guess I just stay off camera because I don't need to be on camera, but I'm not afraid to be on camera.
Okay. Like for me, like Subtle Infinity will probably be like if it's someone white saying something, he's gonna be suspicious, or someone big and you know with subs and views. For me, it's more like it's the person that doesn't have a name and doesn't have a face. Could, I mean, if they're big, like for you, I don't see it being a big thing because it's like you're like me, we're just too small for anyone to notice anyways. But especially like all the globe earth trolls that are always watching flat earth channels and just trolling, that's like their job. It seems like they'll spend like anywhere from 4 to 8 hours just trolling flat earth channels. That's all they do, and they don't have a name, they don't have a face, they don't make, a lot of them don't make their own videos, but they just
do you know Vegan Goy?
Vegan Goy?
Yeah, Vegan Goy. He was on Nathan Oakley for a little while, and then he started doing some of his own streams. But if you wanted to come onto his stream, he makes you reveal yourself. He won't let you on his chat if you won't show your face.
Oh wow!
All you have to do is show it just so he can see that you're a real person, and then you can go back to having your icon on. But yeah, he's
welcome.
Because he just wants authenticity.
Is he's a flat earther or globe?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Flat. Yep.
I'm subbing and subscribing. That's kind of a good idea. Like I'll speak with anybody. I mean, but naturally assume even the friendly ones as agents, because really, here's my reasoning: is the controllers out there, they know who you are. They know you through your IP address, your internet service provider is gonna give them information, whether it's CIA, NSA, FBI, what have you. They even if you go through like if you get monetized in any way, they're gonna know your name too, especially. But if you don't really monetize through PayPal or Google, well, like YouTube, if you get paid through super chats, they'll know who you are. If you get paid through GoFundMe's or Patreons, they're gonna know who you are. It's the only way they won't know who you are is if you go through a VPN service. Oh, I've seen your face before on your videos. There you go. Yeah.
I was on for like the past 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking through some stuff. But yeah, I just feel like there really is nothing to be afraid. I think there's just more protection when people know what you look like. They know your name, plus like self-admission, like I'm a good swimmer, I won't ever drown, I love life, I don't want to kill myself. You got to say those things, because sometimes if you talk about maybe say exposing the Clintons, you may not be alive the next day, type of thing. So it's just weird that we have to do that. But I mean, it's not like it's real protection, because if the controllers or powers that be want to kill you, they'll kill you. They don't really care too much. It's not like we have a lot of sway anyway. We're just kind of in a small community. It just gives them the people who speak truth and expose the corruption. It just gives them more ammo. But a lot of us know a lot of the corruption that's been going on, but we've never been able to congregate and make any difference. We try to protest peacefully. Those things always fail. I can't remember the last time there's been a peaceful protest and it's succeeding. Except for, was it maybe back in the 60s or the 70s? Any type of hostility type of action, that's actually a lot worse, because that hostility never seems to go towards the control mechanisms. It always seems to go against just ordinary citizens, ordinary people, and then that always just gives the majority of the people more support of these control systems, because they don't want to be the victims of the next riot or whatever. So it seems like there is no answer to any of this, except for if we do just choose to have an actual revolution. But then that just means people dying, and who we're fighting would end up being people who are brainwashed in the first place and following their orders. We don't want to kill them. We want to put the people who are perpetrators of all this corruption, and the ones who just seek power and more power. But they're never going to be in the front lines. I guess at this point I don't know if you're muted, but I just thought I'd point that out. Well, anyways, I'll keep talking to myself until I think he just ended up getting in a bad Wi-Fi connection or something. Thing and goy. Yeah, that's what I like about the community, at least. Community, like, I don't know everyone in the community, but someone knows someone else, and someone's talked to someone else. And I think that's great. We just kind of reach out to more and more people, watch more and more people's material, things that they're looking into, and they're finding out their thought processes and all of that stuff. And I'm gonna definitely watch some of these. But Vegan Gore, I think I like the idea that he makes people show themselves before he allows them to talk. I think that's pretty smart. I may have to take that on one day if it becomes a problem. I don't think it's a problem now. And the only problem is maybe that will be taken down, that video where they show themselves, whoever it is. So unless that is screen capped and shared somewhere else where it can't be taken down or propagated enough, like a wall of who's who, I don't think it'll matter too much. All right, there we go. Hey, welcome back. I think you had.
Hey, I'm back. I went inside my warehouse and it dropped the call.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought happened. But let's see. What was I gonna ask you? There's a lot I was gonna ask you. Oh, your interview with Max Egan. Like, I like a lot of what Max Egan says. What were your thoughts on Max when you interviewed him?
I mean, he's pretty guarded, you know, outside of the stuff that he talks about already on his channel. He when I first contacted him, I had Red Hen Radio listed and the Plain Truth listed in my email. So when he checked out those channels and saw that I was Flat Earth, that made him really, really nervous. So it took me a couple of months of just following up with him and just assuring him that I wasn't going to talk about it, wasn't going to bring it up. So I did an interview with him and Mark Doxey. Mark Doxey's been on the Flat Earth debate quite a bit last year.
How do you spell his name?
Mark Doxey.
Yeah.
MARK space DOXEY.
Okay. Wow, he's only got 17 subs?
Yeah, he restarted his channel or something like that. I can't remember what it was before, but he shut down for a little while because he was finding himself joining in the fray a little bit more negatively than he wanted to. So he took a break, and then when he started back up, I think he started from scratch. So I don't even remember what his channel was before that, but he pretty much just posts photography, but I've had him on my channel quite a few times to talk shop with Flat Earth or the images that I've captured. He's a good guy. I like Mark.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't mind Max Egan because unlike Mark Passio, he doesn't claim that to have researched Flat Earth and to ultimately say that no one knows more about Flat Earth than him, and that and that Flat Earth is just a CIA and Tavistock Institute psyop.
Yeah, I tried to get Mark Passio. Was it Mark? I think it was Mark. If it wasn't Mark, who is it? Oh, there was another couple guys. It was both Mark and a couple of guys that do courtroom truth, and they wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole. They're like, "We are not coming on your channel." I said, "I'm not." I said, "I don't want to talk about Flat Earth." They're like, "We don't care. We don't want anything to do with anything Flat Earth."
Wow.
And yeah, Mark was the same way. So.
Yeah, I mean, once I heard Mark Passio, because I did a segment on it, and I just aired was like 5-6 minutes of Mark Passio going off on flat Earth and telling people to trust him. You know, he's done more research than anyone, and
Yeah.
it's like I feel like flat Earth is, once you look into, actually, I don't even like saying looking into flat Earth, looking into the globe Earth model and looking at it through just more of a focused view on it. It's like that's easy. Like for me, unlike other people, you know, I looked at flat Earth stuff like hours and hours and hours, like 20-30 hours worth of stuff. Like I went through the whole Mark Sargent's
Flat Earth clues.
Flat Earth clues, yeah. I mean, I wasn't convinced either. I mean, I like the questioning of stuff, but it wasn't until I watched a documentary from PBS where people were saying Discovery Channel, and when I saw that they faked it, then I just go, okay, if they fake a scientific result, then I'm definitely on the other side. And I know NASA definitely likes to claim certain things that aren't true. Hi, Samantha Peters. And so I feel like if he's done his research, he should easily have come to the same conclusion as us.
Yeah. There's another guy that I like his channel, and it was the same thing. I didn't even bring up flat Earth. I made some comments in his chat, and he came after me and was completely antagonistic. I'm like, bro, I didn't even bring the topic up, and you're like, you are completely trolling me. And but he was the same thing. He's like, it's a psyop. It's a psyop. I know all about this stuff. This is a government controlled release. It's like, you are not going to make comments. I will ban you. Like, what the heck? That was crazy.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to talk to him on my channel, Red Hen Radio. I wanted to interview him about the stuff that he's been doing in California on driver's licenses and strawman identity stuff, because I thought it was some good stuff.
Yeah. So Red Hen Radio, like it's hard to follow you. Like your Skype is Red Hen Radio. Sorry, you're the Penny Truth on YouTube and a couple other stuff. Is Red Hen Radio on like a podcast or somewhere else?
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube too.
So yeah, Red Hen is all one word, REDHENN, and then space, and then radio, and then there's a. If you look it up, it'll be a red hen image. So
I think I might be subscribed to you already. Oh no, I'm not. Okay.
Crow 777 was my first guest.
Oh. And, what'd you think of Crow 777?
Well, yeah, I like him. I mean, yeah. I think he's got some great stuff. And I've had Jason Lindgren on. What else? Max Egan. Can't remember who else. It's been hard to get people to commit to interviews, just in terms of scheduling and whatnot. But
I know.
I mean, I would love, I had Mark Stevens, who, I don't know if you know who he is, but he does a lot of courtroom stuff, defending yourself in court. And Mark, he's an anarchist as well. Mark Doxey interviewed him. So I actually started Red Hen Radio with the hopes that it would be a collaboration. Like, for instance, if you wanted to do something that you may not want necessarily on your channel, or if anybody wanted to participate in Truth and use Red Hen Radio as a platform, then you're just going to be a co-anchor, and you can do your own show. So I never wanted it to just be exclusively me, just because I know that I don't have the time to commit to, having it be a solitary endeavor, a one-man show.
Yeah, I get it. It'd be similar to like Truth Frequency Radio, right? Just a lot of different individuals.
Yeah, sure, right. Yeah, something like that, I suppose. Yeah.
It's good, because I'm telling you, that's an easier way to go, because I've been making videos for like 3 years straight, and I'm still only like at 1,200 subs. And like the last couple of months through Flat Earth, that's where I got a couple more, just because I've only been a Flat Earther for like a few months, since mid or end of January.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is my videos. It's weird because you can see my entire path towards where I'm at now, where I went from, Bernie Sanders to the DNC leaks with WikiLeaks, and looking into rabbit holes, then getting into just like some activism stuff with Unity4J and Julian Assange, and then going back into rabbit holes. And then I figured, okay, let's finally look into Flat Earth. Then, now, like 4 months later, is it? Yeah, it's April. Yeah, 4 months later, it's like I've just been participating in trying to seek out everyone that's in the Flat Earth community, and I didn't realize it was such a huge community. Like, after you just kind of filter out all the big names of Flat Earth, I like how there's just a lot of dedicated people who are really small channels, and that's what I like. I like a lot of small channels. They feel it's important. They keep going at it, and I support that. I'd rather support like anyone who, like, just normal everyday person, because I think that's what's more important. Because we're not gonna really convince any big name person, because people follow them because of what they say. But like, we could always toss ideas around with like individuals who have small channels, and we're not gonna really, we're open to changing our minds and ideas, and just things like that, just because we don't have anything to lose. It's not like we're gonna lose 80,000 subscribers just because we entertain a thought on something.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I had some people comment when I started Red Hen Radio. I got a huge boost in my subs because it was Crow. So, but as soon as they saw some of the, because I would play in my my opening montage channels that I listened to, and some of those channels had Flat Earth associations, and some of the comments that came up in my thread were, if you even go into the Flat Earth, then you can count on losing me as a sub. But yeah, it's funny that you came across Nathan so soon, because when I came into Flat Earth, really the first two channels that I listened to more than anything else was Eric Dubé and Dell. I didn't even come across Nathan until probably 5 months.
Yeah,
after I started.
I think I was listening to Globebusters more than Nathan, and then
I didn't even come across them.
Yeah. And then like, first I came up with Mark Sargent, and I got an interview with him because he pretty much accepts interviews with anybody. So I was like, all right. So I could actually talk to a Flat Earther, and like,
really?
Yeah. And then my second interview was with Zen Garcia, who's like the nicest person I've ever met.
I met him in Denver.
Yeah. And I wanted to, I think I was more listening to him and Marty Leeds as well, and then started going to other people. And like, I didn't even find Dell till maybe like a week or two ago.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I think I found Nathan Oakley because he was on as a guest with Globebusters, and you know how that fallout happened, right? And so then I just became a regular, or tried to become a regular.
That's when you came across Nathan, was that debacle?
Yeah, when he was talking with Bob Nodell about the his documentary that was made on that's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And then I think I listened to a lot of Eric DeBay stuff on the Flat Earth Clues, and also on ODD Reality. I came across ODD Reality uh, as part of my intro to Flat Earth, and I didn't know who Eric DeBay was, but I remember his voice. Like when Eric DeBay makes his big
Yeah.
compilations, he doesn't show his face, but you could definitely know the music and
Yeah.
the voice. And so I looked for Eric DeBay's channel. It's like I think it was like gone or something like that, or it was just small, and it was like, why is the channel so small? And then yeah, you get into a lot of history with Flat Earth. What do you call it? Drama? I mean, the Flat Earth drama goes back a long ways. Like I didn't even know about the Powers guy,
Matt Powerland.
Matt Powerland. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm still on one of his channels. It's not Matt Powerland. It's something else.
He also the NASA channel.
The NASA channel, yeah. And he'll play music too. He's one of those who does music. But yeah, but it's about. But I've talked to a lot of people who are on the debates, and you're one of them. And that's what I like. It's like tossing ideas around and not just talking about flat Earth. I mean, I like talking about spirituality, religion, God, stuff like that. Even though I'm agnostic, I still want to know more, because if I refuse to take in any information anyone's offering, I'm never gonna find God.
Yeah.
So any pathways to get to knowing God, heck, I'll take it into consideration. It's just that I'm worried that if I meet God, I won't know it's God. Like,
yeah,
it's just hard.
I've got a pretty strong conservative Christian background, and I've got my master's degree in biblical studies. So that was the field that I was going into, but a lot of my views were changing, and I pretty much studied myself out of a job because I changed some pretty key church doctrines. I changed my mind on those, and so that was really my first conspiracy, so to speak, even though I wouldn't consider it a conspiracy. Mm-hmm. But I just mean in terms of that kind of monumental worldview, belief system change. Mm-hmm. Because I basically had to say to my community, I'm moving in another direction. You know, this is. I mean, I'll stick around. Yeah. You know, and I'll still be here, but I wasn't allowed in any longer. I was on the out, and so I had already had to make that kind of a decision to where, am I going to maintain my commitment to what I believe to be true, mm-hmm. or am I going to capitulate to the consensus? So when Flat Earth came along, I still think that I was the fastest convert. I was in within 30 seconds. I heard this pastor that I was listening to his sermons, and in one of his sermons, he out of nowhere was, he was just talking to his congregation, and he said, yeah, you guys know that I'm flat Earth, and I'm driving my truck, just listening. And I was just like, and this was right after the 2017 eclipse. Mm-hmm. So I had seen flat Earth memes that were, the memes about flat Earth eclipses. Yep. But I didn't think it was a thing. You know what I mean? I just thought it was a funny meme. I'm like, that's funny. Yeah. It's a flat Earth shadow. That's funny. And so then, like, within a couple of weeks after the flat Earth meme, I'm listening to this sermon, and the pastor says what he says, and I was just like, what did he just say? And he basically debunked Coriolis. And I was driving along, and I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. and I didn't fight it. And it was just basic physics, right? It was just basic physics, and that started me off, and I was just like totally in. But I started looking around for it, and I came across Mark Sargent and Eric Dubay, like I said.
Yeah.
But I didn't need any more convincing. I just needed to understand how the heliocentric model was breaking down, and couldn't maintain its stamina.
Yeah, it takes some bravery to make that decision, especially if you're a pastor as well. And are you still with friends with anyone from your previous congregation?
They
Uh-oh, I think I might have lost you again. Yeah. I think he entered his he's driving back and forth. I don't know what he's doing, but we lost connection. He'll probably join back in again. I need to take a quick break. I don't know what to do in my quick break because I really need to pee. Oh, there we go. I kind of lost you for a second. Hello?
Yeah.
You're breaking up. Hold on. Your connection was off. It's back again. I missed the entire part for about a minute.
I think I answered your question. I just said, yeah, I have certain friends that if they see me, they'll say hello, but they don't go out of their way to like I have this one guy that I would talk to on a regular basis because we liked a lot of the same thoughts and philosophies in our church. And as soon as I pretty much was turned out by my church leaders, he won't return any of my phone calls or any of my texts.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
I always think that's the saddest thing. Just that, just a difference in belief and just being true to to what you believe in.
The thing that you have to realize, at least in the Christian community that I was in, truth is atomistic. It's conceptual. It is true. There is no deviation. And so it's a lot like the heliocentric model with scientism, and that is that if it's this is settled science. This is settled theology. We don't question this.
Yeah.
You don't question this. And that is part of the, you can find certain passages that if it talks about a brother who is going astray, you have nothing to do with him. You let him, because that aspect of the community shunning him is supposed to be a shock to his system, so that he realizes that if you go down this road, you're going to lose your community.
Yeah.
And so they see it as an act of love. We're doing this for your good. We're doing this for your good.
Yeah, I get that. All right. I need to take a minute break to go to the restroom. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, man. I'm just driving back to my apartment now. So.
All right. Nothing. So people will be back. You can go ahead and talk to the people on listening in, but I'll be back in about a minute.
All right. I don't have anything to say to you people. I don't know who you are. I don't know who's watching. Just kidding. I don't have the YouTube channel open anymore, so I can't see who's in the chat unless I'm driving. But yeah, so if you haven't subscribed to The Plain Truth, head on over there. Check out my channel, and also Red Hen Radio. And if Chocolate's saying is in the house still, even though he doesn't put any content out. So anyway, where's where's everybody from? I think there was like 4 people watching when I was driving earlier before I jumped. If I could reverse my, there we go. You can see me drive.
All right. Whew. Some of the things that you can't hurry is going to the restroom, no matter how much you want to.
Yeah, so when I saw you were live, I didn't know you'd been on for a couple hours already, so I thought it was just something you just started.
Oh yeah, sometimes I'll do a lot of marathons. Like I've done shows where it's been like 8-10 hours.
Really?
Yeah. Way back in the past. Not as much anymore, but sometimes 4 hours it happens. Let's see. Samantha Peters, my dog just made a mess. Oops, I'm in Colorado. What is the other chat forum? How do I join it? So if you go in the description box in YouTube, Samantha, you'll see a link to join Zoom. You can also call in if you want. If you don't have a computer or a smartphone, you could just use your voice. Where do you live again, Travis?
I'm in Maryland.
Okay. How do you like Maryland?
It's okay. I mean, it's not that it's nothing to sneeze at. Once you get out here, Maryland, Virginia, it's all the same landscape. Pennsylvania, except for when you get up into the Poconos. But I'm from California originally, so I miss California a lot. I'm going back in a week to spend a week on the beach and do more shooting. I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff that I put out with the oil rigs and the lighthouse and stuff. So I'm going to try to go back and try to be mindful of some of the stuff that I've caught. Yeah, I need probably 3 cameras because I've got 3 different things that I want to shoot all time lapse, and you can't do that with 1 camera.
Yeah.
So.
And I think you should be on the panel Flat Earth Debate quite often, especially when they talk about cameras and details of it, which is funny when the globe earthers come in and talk about camera stuff. They know nothing about it, so we have to explain it to them. But I don't know why they even go there when they don't understand anything about it.
Yeah, it's very. I actually had a 2.5-hour conversation with one of the panelists from Jose's channel.
Mm-hmm.
His name is Dean. He's from the UK, and he's into computer graphics and whatnot. So he was going over 3D images and stuff, and we were talking stuff. It was a really, really good hangout, and I had pushed record, and I'm trying to think of why I had accidentally. I had forgotten to take my mic off of mute.
Oh.
So I was completely, absent from the conversation, and I just, because it was great. We talked about some really good stuff, had a really good compatibility, and it was funny because he showed me what he wanted me to try to capture with table imagery. So he was calling into question the angle of resolution on a table. He doesn't think, he thinks, again, any obstruction has to be physical. It cannot be optical. It has to be physical 100%. So the whole angular resolution on a table thing. And so he showed me all this stuff on 3D. He's like, look, if you do this, there is no obstruction. I said to him, can you guess? I mean, it might not be that obvious to you, but it might. So he goes through his whole 3D presentation, and I said one thing to him. What would you imagine it could be? So he basically said, look, you can't, if I move this direction or this direction, I obscure this object. So look, it's physical. And then he said, if you line these things up on a table and you drop down to the level of the table, there's no obstruction. He's like, there's no obstruction in this 3D imaging. So I had one thing to say.
Did he say diffraction limit, or did he say viewing angle?
Well, he brought that up, but in his 3D image, you know, the angle, the viewing angle, didn't produce what we say that it does. So my response to him was, I said, okay, now introduce the atmosphere and light. Because that's completely absent in this computer generated
in the 3D model.
image.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, I'm like, where's your atmosphere? Oh, we all, you know, I'm like, dude, that's the whole thing, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of variables that are out there, and to not have a variable included in a 3D computer model, and that's the thing is with the models that they always seem to create. I mean, it's programmed in, so you also have to trust the level of programming of the creator of the program, of the modeling software, of what values and algorithms that they put in. All right, I think that's Samantha. Let me unzoom so I could add her in. Hi, is this Samantha? And anyway, go ahead and test out your mic. The reason I hide the Zoom before I let anyone call in. Oh, we hear you. It's a little bit low. Can you increase your volume?
Can you hear me?
Yep, it's a little faint. Oh.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, that's much better.
Okay. This is my very first time calling any type of show, radio or otherwise.
Welcome.
Wow, there you go. Woohoo.
How nerve-wracking.
We're just ordinary people.
Good evening. I like your show, Ebon.
Oh, thanks, Samantha.
I heard you first on Zen Garcia, and I love Zen Garcia. He's an amazing man.
Yeah, he is. He's very nice, very accommodating. I mean, he's not someone who will hate you for your beliefs, but he'll tell you everything that you want to know. So
yeah, I've learned an awful lot from him.
Yeah. And you can say hi to Travis. He's also.
Hi, Travis. I didn't know your
Samantha.
name. Good evening. And what channel did you say? I recognized one of the channels you mentioned.
My main channel is The Plain Truth.
I think I'm on that. I'm not sure, but I know I've D Plain Truth or Plain Truth.
THE.
Yeah, I think I'm on that.
Okay.
I
Excellent.
hope so. I will be if I'm not.
Yeah, that's right.
And also Red Hen Radio.
Oh yeah, that's the new one.
And that's REDHENN space radio. Red Hen Radio. And then if you like Zen Garcia because of his biblical content, I do have a Bible podcast if you want to listen to that too.
Yeah, I would. What is that?
That one's called Rethinking Revelation. Rethinking Revelation.
See, that's how I got to Flat Earth, was through eschatology.
Oh, really? Yeah, my big other bell to ring in the Flat Earth eschatology discussion is a little bit of what I was talking to Ebon about, and one of the things that I changed my mind on was the end the end times view that I was raised in, and so I've gone on to certain, like with Nathan Thompson, or let's see who else, Rob Skiba. I've tried to get these guys. I've tried to get these guys to have conversations about the Bible and the end times and whatnot, but they just do not want to rock the boat in that category. I find that very interesting.
How do your views? See, I like Rob Skiba. I'm familiar with his work. How do your views differ from Rob Skiba's?
Well, if you listen to a lot of mainstream Christians who are flat Earth, they'll talk about the Bible being a flat Earth book, and I take issue with that. And then the view that we are living in the end times and that Jesus is coming back in our future. I don't believe that the Bible teaches that, and so those are pretty much the two big ones in the flat Earth discussion.
I probably just could disagree with you on both points, but I don't know that much about how you would feel those things don't apply.
How they don't apply?
Yeah. What takes you away from those two viewpoints? What evidence gave you different viewpoints?
Well, this is it's a really big discussion. So the way that I say it is that the mainstream view of the Bible's end times is the heliocentrism of biblical eschatology. So when we talk about scientism as a flat Earth community, we say we were taught that this is what science is. We were taught that this is what our world is. And I can speak from personal experience, so that I will say it this way. I was taught that the Bible teaches that Jesus is coming back in our future. That's what I was taught. The problem was, when I read my Bible, there was a conflict. There are numerous, and I don't know if you've had this yet. You know, you might, in the back of your mind, you might be reading a certain passage and you might think, that kind of sounds like it says that they thought that it was going to happen soon, or they thought that it was near, but it didn't happen. So then what does that mean? So I just had to wrestle through that stuff. And so at least in terms of, go ahead, Ebon.
Sorry, I just you're showing your envelope in case it showed your home address. I don't want to.
Oh, I don't care.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
That's okay. But so the end times thing is pretty much, I would say that I believe that the New Testament is clear. Of course, we all say that, right? The New Testament is clear that the expectation of what Jesus talked about in terms of his coming again was a first century event, and I believe that it already happened.
He already came.
Yeah, and then that would go into a lot of the issue of what we mean by biblical terms, which I guess would be a nice little segue into the fact that in the Bible, both in the Old and the New Testament, there is one word that gets translated as earth or land, but there's no discrimination in terms of why they translate it as earth in one passage or land in another passage. But for instance, I can't think of the verse off the top of my head, but in Isaiah, in one verse, it'll say the whole land, and then it'll say the whole earth in the same verse, but it's the same word. So the question becomes, why did they translate it earth and land in the same verse?
I only have a limited knowledge of Paleo-Hebrew.
Yeah.
My understanding is that when you have a word in Paleo-Hebrew, it has multiple meanings depending on the tense and the sentence structure.
Yeah, that's usually true for verbs, but then that also goes into what we are comfortable with in the English language when we talk about denotation and connotation. So that the word itself, it denotes something. That's its root base meaning, but then it can be used in different contexts. And in this context, it could mean this or it could mean that. And
I think you can find that in English as well. And I think, I'm just going to say my opinion is that the Bible, because like you start with the Ethiopian Bible and it's got 88 books. Well, by the time you get down to the King James Bible, it's 66 books and we have a Reader's Digest version. And I think that's very deliberate, when you follow through the translation by years. And I think that confusion, maybe they could have done it more consistently. Somebody chose not to.
Yeah. So I guess just to go back in terms of the Bible not being a flat earth book, and that is that the Bible doesn't have a concept for earth the way that we use that term. So I think that for most of us, if we think of the word earth, we think of it in a more global sense. That is, it's all encompassing. You're talking about the whole globe per se. The Bible doesn't have that concept of earth. That's, it doesn't think of North America or South America or Australia or whatever. So
do you I missed the beginning of this conversation, so I missed like 2 hours of it. Do you describe yourself as a flat earther, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I describe myself as a flat earther. I just would say that the earth is stationary and not a spinning globe in space.
Right, I agree.
I don't want to say too much, but Samantha, can you give your quick origin story on how you got into flat Earth?
Well, I was raised Roman Catholic, and I started studying. I wanted to be a really good Catholic, so I started studying Marianology, or Mariology, I guess, or Marianism, I think is what it's called. I'm not sure. And I think it is Marianism. And there's a lot of appearances of Mary and prophecies that were given. And most of them, like if you're familiar with Lourdes or Fatima. Anybody here?
No.
Anybody? Okay. So there were a number of prophecies. Let's pick Lourdes. Lourdes is outside of France. What's right next to France? I forget. I can't think of the name. Sorry. It's basically France, but they call themselves kind of like a subsection of France or something. Is that Belgium? I forget what it is. Anyway, so Mary appeared in a grotto in Lourdes and had Saint Bernadette sent this young lady, like 12 years old, and the girl went up against the priests and the bishop and everybody and insisted that Mary had appeared. And eventually a whole bunch of people came, and there were some miracles. I'm confusing Fatima and Lourdes here now. But a spring appeared, and the spring is of fresh water where there wasn't any. And the water, the pool is still there to this day. And there's a whole wall of crutches and wheelchairs and different things where people have come and either touched the water or bathed in the water and been healed miraculously. And for the Catholic Church to consider anything a miracle, it has to have like 5 verified cases or so that they cannot explain other than intervention by God. So this is just one of the major appearances, and Saint Bernadette was given a number of prophecies toward the end times, and the last one was opened was kept secret and was opened by Pope John the 23rd, and then was not released to the public. And if you've ever heard of the author Malachi Martin, he said he had seen it because he was working as an exorcist in the Vatican at that time. But it was never released to the public. So we don't know what it said. And anyway, I started there, and I kept researching the Catholic Church. I felt that there was a great abuse of the doctrine and misinterpretation along the years in many directions, and that the real sanctity of the church was being abandoned very rapidly because we were moving toward end times. There's no time limit given, but I think for myself, so I went to Catholic Church into, what did I find next? End time study, and then eventually into flat Earth. So, and I do think that we're in times simply because if you look around at the technology that's here today, which has never been here before, it seems to fill into the gaps, things in the Bible that just never made sense before. And in other prophecies, I was starting to study the Book of Enoch and pseudepigraphia texts and non-canonical literature. And so it just starts to add up that, there's this whole checklist of what's supposed to happen during the end times. And it's not just major weather events or a certain war or something. It's numerous things that keep happening one after the other. And I just feel that it's getting close. That's it. Hello?
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
it's a little bit different perspective.
Yeah. Like for me is
I'm no longer Catholic, by the way.
Yeah, I had a feeling about that. If you're listening to Zen. For me it's like everyone who's predicted the end of the world has gotten it wrong so far. So anyone who makes a prediction on it with the exact date and time, I'll probably bet any amount of money.
The Bible tells us that nobody knows the date or the time. Jesus said that it was only known by the Father.
Yeah.
I think that's in Matthew somewhere. Since I wasn't raised in the Protestant faith, I don't have any of this memorized line by line other than a knowledge of the truth. I listen to the Bible every night.
Yeah. Travis, I wanted to ask you, because that was something new that I never heard about, that someone was thinking that the end times already happened. Now, what's the now then?
What is the now since the end times already happened? So it's kind of like if you think about the Chronicles of Narnia, one of the things that the last battle is the last book. And one of the things that C.S. Lewis puts in there that Aslan, the lion, says is farther up and further in. And that is that even though the last battle has happened, time still goes on, and you perpetuate and promote the reality that exists. So history still goes on. There's the reason why I said that it's a big conversation is because you can't it's very similar. It's interesting. I have a lot of similar reactions talking to Christians about this, the way that we would talking to a baller about flat Earth. The reactions are very, very similar. The psychology is very similar. When you have your worldview challenged this way, it's very disconcerting, and it's very threatening to a lot of people. And I understand that, and so I hopefully come across in a way that's
that shows my conviction, but at the same time shows my empathy and the fact that I get it. I get that a person might not understand or might have a rejection of the information that I give them. But what we have to understand ultimately, when we talk about the end times, my question would be, if we were going to have a long conversation about this, the end of what? You know, that's one question. The end of what times?
Oh, I might have an answer for you. I can give you my answer.
Sure.
So I'm talking about Revelation. So basically, it's like, no, maybe we have to go back to pre-Genesis. There was a war in heaven, correct? And then I don't know, are you familiar with Enoch?
Well, yeah, see, yeah, I'm new to Enoch because of my tradition, right? So as a Protestant, I was not aware of Enoch, and I have looked at it a little bit. I haven't spent a whole lot of time in it, but I am familiar with.
Catch up on a lot of it.
Yeah.
Then Garcia can help you with a lot of that. So in Enoch, we're told about there was a battle between the angels. It's just given like 1 or 2 lines in Genesis, but it is, so you'd find it in King James Bible also. There was a war in heaven. Okay, a third of the angels fell. They followed Satan. Satan was the most beautiful angel and the cleverest angel, and he deceived a third of the angels that came down to where we are now, Earth. And then God said, okay, start over. He made Adam and then Eve in the Garden of Eden. Apparently Satan had access to the Garden of Eden, and I believe other people teach that Satan seduced Eve physically and gave her the seed of Cain. Adam also knew Eve and put Abel in her womb, and a woman can hold twins, fraternal twins from 2 different fathers. We can do that today, apparently. Very rarely. Then there were 2 seed lines born. Cain kills Abel. Adam and Eve conceive and bear Seth. But there are 2 bloodlines. The story goes that once Adam and Eve were cast out of the garden and these bloodlines were born, that since that point, there's been an ongoing battle between the 2 seed lines, good and evil, and that at some point it concludes, which brings us to Revelation. And that's it. And after Revelation, after it concludes in this, we're kind of like in a penal colony here until this whole scenario unfolds. And then the people who have, despite all the temptations and distractions, followed God and his plan and his son that he sent to us, we get to go back to his house in heaven with many mansions. And the other seed line and the demons go to hell or someplace else. I'm not quite sure. There's a couple ideas on that. That's what I know of this story.
Yeah.
Very beautiful.
Yeah. So again, we're talking about, at least for you and for me right now, because I'll just say it that way. For you and for me, I'll put myself in the negative and you in the positive, so that I'm not coming across.
No, not necessarily.
No.
We have different opinions.
Sure. But what I mean is, in our discussion right now, if we think about it as an analogy, I'm the baller and you're the flat earther. So we're looking at the world with 2 different presuppositions, 2 different constructs. So the world that
we can both be flat earthers in different constructs.
Well, okay, but don't misunderstand the analogy I'm trying to draw. So the description that you just gave of your understanding of the answer to my question, what the end times are, You described a different construct. That is, I don't read the Bible. I don't read the Bible that way. So the way that I look at the Bible, I have different categories for what you described. So that's what I mean by, I'm the baller and you're the flat earther. When we talk about physical phenomenon, I'm going to give you answers that reflect my heliocentric model, and you're going to give me answers that reflect your flat earth model. So, because I guess basically what I would say is that the way that you describe the Bible in your response is not the way I read it. So that is going to require, again, if we were going to have this kind of a conversation where we would have to define our terms and our categories. So for instance, if I wanted to define one of the terms that I would take issue with is the term Satan.
I do really badly mixing up Lucifer and Satan.
Oh no, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that. We can stick with Satan if you want in terms of, and I say that because that's the term that you used, which is fine because it's a biblical term. Satan is the Hebrew word, and then the
I should have said Lucifer.
Well, no, I don't think so. I don't think so because Lucifer, as far as I know, there's only one passage in the Old Testament that uses that term, but that term even is a Latin term. So that's not even the...
Ebon, do you know which, what is used in the book of Enoch? Is it Lucifer or Satan?
I don't know offhand. I would think it's Lucifer as the morning star, the fallen angel.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So.
Okay.
My mistake.
Right, but Lucifer, that term, that's not an ancient Near Eastern language. That's Latin. So Enoch wasn't written in Latin. The Old Testament wasn't written in Latin, but we use the term Lucifer. We use the term Lucifer, but that's not the Hebrew term. But so most people associate Lucifer with Satan. And my point was going to be that the understanding that I have of Satan is that it's not in reference to a spiritual being. It's not an individual.
See, that's why I said I should have said Lucifer, because he's almost designated as more like an entity,
right, but I would disagree
without
with,
body. He's more like an energy spirit.
Yeah, I would disagree with that as well. So that's why I said it's a big discussion. It's not something that we can solve. You know what I mean?
But we're here chatting now, so we can get into bits and pieces of it.
Yeah, that's true.
I would be highly surprised if you and I could come up with what's actually going to happen in end times. I don't think that's possible.
So just quickly between both of you, in your ideas of the end times, if it occurred or if it's going to occur, what's the reason for the end times? I guess we'll start with Travis because I kind of got it from you, Samantha, but just want to reiterate.
Yeah. I'll start with the book of Genesis, chapter 1, because my understanding of Genesis is not literal. Genesis 1 does not give us the origins of the universe in 6 days. It's what in biblical studies is called a temple text. And that is that it reflects an analogy to the temple construct and the representation of what the temple was. So if you look at the instructions that Moses received from God on Mount Sinai, the construction of the tabernacle, which then got transferred into a more stationary and static construction in the temple. Okay, so the temple is stationary and static. It doesn't move from place to place. The tabernacle was a portable tent. It was a portable construct that you set up, took down as you moved and traveled, right? You got that concept? So while the tabernacle was mobile and the temple is stationary, they both, however, represent exactly the same thing. So what the tabernacle represented is what the temple is. They're both the same, except one is temporary and mobile, and the other one is fixed and stationary. But my point is, in the book of Exodus, the construction of the tabernacle is given in 7 narratives. Okay, so you have a construct of the tabernacle given to you in 7 descriptions. Genesis 1 has 7 days. That is an allusion. All right, we're supposed to connect those two things together. That is that Genesis 1 is a temple text. The temple didn't exist. If we think about it in the way that most Christians, the way that I was raised as a Christian, I'll say this again for myself, the way that I was raised as a Christian was that Genesis 1 was literal, and I was not trained or taught to understand Genesis 1 as having to do with anything temple oriented. Why? Well, because the temple didn't exist. If we're thinking linear, right? If Genesis 1 is the beginning in the beginning, if it's the beginning of time, there is no temple. So that doesn't make sense to say that it's a temple text. But when we think of literature, we have to be a little bit more open to that kind of literary connection to be made. So the end times, this is huge. Okay, this is why I have a Bible podcast, because I unpack all this stuff. But the end times are basically the conclusion of the 6 days of creation, followed by the 7th. Okay, so the end times refer to the end of 6 days. The end times, the last days. End times, last days. So days 1 through 6 are an historical period. And day 7 is, I guess what that would be your answer, Ebon, is where we are now. We are in day 7 now. That is the conclusion that Jesus brought in the first century, was the conclusion to the 6 days that God was laboring to bring about the 7th day. So Genesis 1 is a depiction of history. And the depiction of history was the history that God used Israel and the temple to prepare the way for what Jesus would do by ending that construct. All right, so the temple orientation, the Torah orientation, that stuff was an historical period of days, figuratively. And those days were supposed to, they were established, they were begun to come to an end, right? Day 1, day 2, day 3, 4, 5, and 6 ended, and day 7 comes. So if you think about day 1 through 6, they all end, and it was evening, and it was morning, and it was evening, and it was morning, and it was evening, and it was morning. So each day had a beginning and an end. So what we have to realize is that each day is the same historical period with a different foci, with a different focus. So day 1 begins and ends, same historical period. Day 2 begins and ends, same historical period. Day 1 and day 2 are the same historical period. Day 3, 4, 5, and 6 Same historical period. The reason why it ends in evening and morning is because the New Testament is depicted as being in darkness and looking forward to the day. And that's what we have in John chapter 3. When Jesus is talking to Nicodemus, we are told that Nicodemus comes to Jesus by night. Okay, that's an allusion to Nicodemus is still in the old construct. He needs to move into the light, into the day. And that is what if you look at Genesis, or if you look at John chapter 3, you'll see that Jesus talks about loving light more than darkness. And Jesus is basically saying to Nicodemus, look, Nicodemus, you have to leave the darkness behind. The darkness wasn't bad. The darkness wasn't evil. But now the day has come. And if you don't move into the day, if you stay in the dark, you will perish. So the whole idea is the end of days is a reference to Genesis chapter 1, because those days come to an end. The day that doesn't end, right? So if you read Genesis 1 and you pay attention, actually it goes into Genesis 2 chapter and verse 4 is the end of the creation week. Days 1 through 6 all end in, and it was evening and morning, evening and morning. However, the seventh day does not have that designation. It doesn't say, and it was evening and morning, the seventh day. That's not there. That is huge. That's very important. And so I guess just to go back into answering your question again, where are we right now? We are in the seventh day, where we are promoting the life that that Jesus brought about. So it's an ongoing process of, I guess, what you could possibly call sharing the gospel, so to speak. Sorry if I talk too much.
No,
no problem. Can I throw out a question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
So let's take Matthew, and I can't give you the verse. Jesus is talking about the apostles ask Jesus, how will we know the time? And this might be more than one chapter. And Jesus is, woe unto those who are with child or giving suck in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also says that those with eyes to see and ears to hear. And then he further warns the apostles to keep their cloaks with them and be prepared. And nobody knows the day or the hour of the return or the Antichrist. I'm not sure if he's talking about the Antichrist coming, because nobody knows the day or the hour except God the Father. And he says in those days, people will run to the hills and beg the rocks to fall on them.
Yeah.
So how does all this cataclysm fit into the seventh day?
Yeah, I know.
The return of Jesus coming after that. I mean,
Yeah,
Jesus wasn't trying to mislead them. How does that fit in with your viewpoint?
Yeah. Again, you're asking all of the right questions. Okay. So all of your questions are exactly where you should be having this cognitive dissonance. And all I mean by that is that
currently you said Jesus already came. The return of Jesus already came.
Right.
I only see him coming once. I guess I
That's
conflict
right.
that.
That's right.
He's coming back again. He came. How does him coming one time, dying and being resurrected, erase him coming back after all this cataclysm?
Okay, so again, these are all the right questions.
Hello?
He's muted.
Hello?
He might have dropped off going to a new area, so we may just have to wait about a minute.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. Am I back?
Yep.
Yes.
I butt muted.
Oops.
My phone was in my pocket, so.
Oops.
So yeah, again, just to reiterate, you're asking all of the right questions, and so what we have here is a cognitive dissonance, and I don't mean that in a pejorative term. I mean that simply that you're taking in new information and trying to process it through the grid that you have, which is perfectly reasonable and good, right? So all of your questions are great and fantastic, and the same questions that I had as I had to wrestle through this. So the end times, again, I think that we have to begin with a large umbrella under which all of your other questions will fall. So when you have a question about X, Y, or Z, those questions are tertiary, if you understand what I mean by that term. That is, that those are lower level questions that fall under a primary level answer. So if you don't have the primary answer established, your lower tiered, your tertiary questions aren't going to get answered. So we have to answer, I think, in the ultimate sense, the timing of the coming of the Son of Man. Okay, so we have that description in Matthew 24, in Luke 21, I think, and Mark 3. We have the coming of the Son of Man. If we can at least establish that the coming of the Son of Man happened in the 1st century, then we have to understand your question about X, Y, and Z has to fall under that umbrella. So that even if you don't have an answer for that, here's where I'm going to mix my metaphor and come over into the flat earth. Even if I can't satisfactorily answer your question about what causes an eclipse, the first thing that we have to establish is the fact that the earth is not moving, okay? It doesn't move. If you can't, first of all, start there, don't ask me about the eclipse. The eclipse is a tertiary issue. First thing that we have to establish is the earth is not moving and it's not a sphere in space. If you can't get past those 2 points, your other questions are going to be non sequiturs. So we have to answer the question what the end times are and when they were. So the end times were in the 1st century. What were they? They were an end to a particular historical period that led to another historical period. And the coming of the Son of Man was the turning point between those 2 historical periods. So it's just a huge discussion. I don't know, did anything else come to mind that you might want to follow up?
I just would wonder why Jesus would tell the apostles he was going to return.
Because they were in they were in the fulcrum, right? They were at the pivot point. That's why they went out to preach the gospel to the 1st century, because the conversation that Jesus had with Nicodemus.
So when did Jesus return? He came in the 1st century. When did he return?
Between AD 70, I would say, is the climax, because in AD 70 the destruction of the temple happened, and that is.
But we don't have any written record of Christ being here.
That's because let me see how I can say this. I would say your response is due to your understanding of what his return is supposed to look like. And I
thought he was going to return in the flesh.
That's exactly where I was going. Yeah. So that is something that I would say I don't believe you can find anywhere in the New Testament. Nowhere in the New Testament do we see or understand that Jesus says that. So when we look at the coming...
let's say for Revelation, it says the sky will roll open like a scroll, and you will see the coming of the Son of God returning.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to watch him come down because the sky, and then St. John talking about the light prince with the sword coming out of his mouth and the feet of fire.
Okay, so I guess I would ask
There's
you.
also Jesus, the reference of Jesus on the white horse coming back and receiving his flock.
Right. So the Old Testament describes
Well,
Yahweh.
that's Revelation.
I understand, but I'm trying to establish the fact that I think that the New Testament and the Old Testament use similar pictorial images. So in the Old Testament, we are told that Yahweh comes in judgment on the clouds. He comes in judgment riding a chariot. Okay? Those are descriptions of certain historical events where God judges either Israel or perhaps Babylon, say in Isaiah 13, where we are given pictorial images of Yahweh coming. Does that mean he came physically? It says that he came in the clouds. It says that he came on a chariot. So we have a picture of the coming of the Son of Man in the New Testament. And if we try to establish a correlation between the Old Testament and the New Testament, that is, the way that we should understand the New Testament is the way the Old Testament spoke. How do we understand the language of the New Testament? Well, we find a correlation in the Old. So I guess my question, as a kind of rabbit trail red herring, do you believe that a sword comes out of Jesus's mouth?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not there. I don't. That's not literal. That's a pictorial depiction.
Ebon, any thoughts?
I'm just listening in. Travis, is that more? It sounds more like the Theosophist interpretation of the biblical story as being more allegorical and illusions rather than the like a reality.
Yeah, allegory is going to be an important aspect of this mode of interpretation. But again, I get it. I get the cognitive.
Hello? Hold on. I'm not hearing anything. It shows you as talking, but what the heck? Hold on, people. Zoom just kind of went out on me. Oh, what's going on here? What is going on? Oh, we're back.
You know what?
Oh, sorry.
What you're gonna...
Zoom went down or something went. Oh, I think YouTube went down. Something went down. It might have been my internet. We may not have heard each other for the last 2 minutes.
I heard everybody.
Oh, that's.
I heard myself.
But maybe YouTube didn't hear us.
Okay, well, we'll see if it starts back up. Something is weird. I don't know why that happened. Am I still on?
So are you off? Are you offline on YouTube? You want me to pull it up?
Yeah, if you can check, I don't see. Wow, that's weird. Oh man, what is going on?